U.S. Army band. Well, the starting lineups in batting order for the Oakland A's leading off. Bert Campaneris at shortstop. Campaneris, Bill Norris in center field. Norris batting second. Sal Bando will be at third base. Bando batting third. Reggie Jackson, the designated hitter for Oakland. Jackson batting cleanup. Joe Rudy in left field. Rudy batting fifth. Gene Tennis will be at first base. Tennis batting sixth. Claudell Washington in right field. Washington batting seventh. Ray Fosse, the catcher. Fosse batting eighth. Dick Green at second base. Green batting ninth. Catfish Hunter pitching and Ray Fosse catching the battery for the world champion Oakland A's. For the Baltimore Orioles, leading off Rich Coggins in right field. Coggins. Paul Blair will be in center field. Blair batting second. Bobby Grich at second base. Grich batting third. Tommy Davis, the designated hitter, batting cleanup. Davis. Luke Powell at first base. Powell batting fifth. Don Baylor in left field. Baylor batting sixth. Brooks Robinson at third base. Robinson batting seventh. Elrod Hendricks catching. Hendricks batting eighth. Mark Belanger, the shortstop. Belanger batting ninth. Cuellar pitching. Hendricks catching for Baltimore. Right now we're going to have Mr. Lee McPhail, the president of the American League, throwing out the first ball from the third base boxes. Tosses it out to Elrod Hendricks, accompanied by Oriole owner Jerry Hopberger. Lee McPhail at one time was the general manager here at Baltimore and certainly deserves a lot of credit for building up Baltimore and one of the baseball powers. The Orioles in their fifth championship series out of the last six. Bert Campaneris will lead it off against Mike Cuellar, who was the winner 6-3. In the opening game, he pitched the first 8 innings. Grimsley finished up. The first pitch of the ball game is high, a ball, and it's 20-0 to Campaneris, who is 3 for 12 in the series and had all 3 of his hits in the opening game and drove in all 3 runs against Mike Cuellar. And the pitch on away. Swung on a drive to left field, but it's foul. 1 ball and 1 strike to Campaneris. The umpiring alignment today, the ball and strike man is Dave Phillips. At first base, Marty Springstead. Second base, Bill Deegan. At third base, Larry Knapp. Along the left field line is Jerry Neudecker. And down the right field line, judging him is Russ Getz. A ball and a strike to Bert Campaneris. Mike Cuellar into the lineup delivers. A fastball outside off the mitt of Elrod Hendricks. 2 balls and 1 strike to count. Cuellar was 22-10 during the regular year. He didn't have particularly good success against Oakland. He was 1-3 this year against the A's. A's are the only club in the American League that owned an advantage over Cuellar since he's been in the league. Swing and a foul by Campaneris, 2-2. Cuellar's lifetime record against Oakland is 6-8, 1-3 of that this year, but of course he won the big one out of Oakland on Saturday. Jerry Adair coaching at first base. For Oakland, Bobby Winkles at third. Wes Stock is the pitching coach. Bobby Hoffman, the other coach, under manager Alvin Dark. Oakland leading in the series 2-1. If they win today, the series in the American League is over, and the pitch is low to Campaneris for the ball, and it is now 3-2. Count to Campaneris. Cuellar gave up 9 hits in 8 innings Saturday. He walked 4, struck out 4, and Grimsley got the last 3 outs of the ball game to preserve the win. 3-2 the count. Veteran left-hander winding, and the pitch on away. Breaking ball is hit on the ground is short. Belanger up with it over the first. 1 away. Campaneris retired short to first, and it'll bring up center fielder Bill North, the switch hitter. He'll be up there right-handed against Cuellar. 1-for-11 in the series.
You know, Bill North is an ex-Cub. He came to the Oakland A's in the Bob Locker deal, and he reminds me somewhat of Lou Brock, who also got away from the Cubs. He has the same kind of potential that Brock has.
He's stolen 107 bases the last 2 years. Here's a ground ball to Robinson at third. Take on to Powell for the out to away. 2 ground balls here, one to the shortstop Belanger, and that one to Robinson at third, and now Sal Bando, the third baseman. The partisan crowd well aware of what Bando has been doing to the Orioles in the series. His homer yesterday, the only run of the game. And on Sunday, he hit a home run in the 4th inning for the first run of that game, which was won by Oakland 5-0. Bando, 3 for 11 in the series with 2 homers. for the right-handed batter. A big curve, a strike. Nothing in one. Mike Cuellar, who is noted for his screwball, but actually he has not been throwing the screwball as much lately as you might believe. He's relied a lot on a slow curve and a fastball, and another curve to Bando, strike two. Now the 0-2 pitch, wasted a fastball, high and outside, 1 ball, 2 strikes. Sometimes, I guess you hear so much about Cuellar's screwball, you're inclined to underrate his other pitches. He's got a good fastball, good slow curve, and also a slider. Here's the windup. 37-year-old left-hander's high fastball makes it 2-2. 2 balls and 2 strikes. There had been some talk, I guess, Jerry, that Cuellar might not pitch today. He did have kind of a stiff arm.
Well, apparently he's all right. He said so before the game, that he was ready. Of course, this is really a big game. He really has to pitch this game.
There's the curve. Oh, he just missed for that one. A little bit low, and Cuellar ready to walk off the mound. He thought he had strike 3, and now he turns his back on home plate. Really been trying to set Bando up with that curveball. He threw him the first 2 curves to strikes, then wasted a couple of fastballs on him, and then came back to the curve, and he thought he had him, but Dave Phillips called it a ball. Now it's 3-2. 2 out and nobody on. No score. Top of the first inning. The pitch on the way. The curve, and it is outside. He walks it. So Bando gets the base on balls, and now Reggie Jackson.
Well, Herb, this could be a very ominous beginning. Cuellar has already gone to the full count on the first, on 2 of the first 3 batters. He's the kind of pitcher who usually stays ahead of the count.
Okay, here's Reggie Jackson. He got his first hit in the series his last time up yesterday. He's 1 for 11. Bando, not a threat to run, is Powell. Holds him at first base, and a curve had Jackson swinging. A big curveball, and he took a big cut in this. Jackson and Jim Palmer had a few words yesterday. Just one of those things that happens in a game. Jackson kept stepping out on him. Here's the pitch. Another slow curve outside and low. And the count is even now, 1-1.
Well, in the papers this morning, Jim Palmer just about accused Reggie Jackson of being a hot dog. So that just kind of adds fuel to the fire.
Okay, it's 1 ball, 1 strike to Reggie Jackson. They play him deep in the outfield. Not playing him to pull too much. I figure he doesn't pull as well now. He's got that pull hamstring. And the right leg takes a high fastball from Cuellar, and the count is 2 balls and 1 strike. Mike Cuellar, known to his teammates as Crazy Horse. He's got a lot of superstitions or idiosyncrasies or whatever you want to call them. Now the stretch. A look over to first base and a pitch on the way. Swing by Jackson, a high foul. Coming back our way, and it's going to be 2-2 to Reggie Jackson.
Nobody could have almost caught that one.
Don't go to my left very well. Or to my right. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Powell now playing a couple of steps off the bag down at first base. Cuellar's pitch up high with a fastball. So there he goes with that 3-2 count again. He's had the 3-2 count 3 times in the first inning here. Jackson, the 4th man up. Cuellar's the type of pitcher. He's known as sometimes a slow starter. He's the type of pitcher. Usually you feel you have to get him in the early innings. Generally, he will get better as the game wears along. Here's the pitch to Jackson. The curve, and he bounces it foul down and back. And the count rides along at 3-2.
You're certainly right, Herb. If you don't get Cuellar by the 3rd inning, usually he's going to pitch a very strong game. Almost all of his losses come very early.
Well, Jackson's still up there with a count of 3 balls and 2 strikes. Reggie Jackson, who is from this town of Baltimore, his mother still lives here. In fact, earlier this year, Reggie bought his mother a house here. Low curve, half swing. Oh, he didn't swing. And Baltimore doesn't like that, but Jackson will go to first base. He checked his swing in time. A low curve ball. Bando is now on second. And Oakland has runners at first and second with 2 out, and Joe Rudy coming up. Rudy 2 for 12 in the series. 1 of his hits a run-scoring triple.
Well, Cuellar is generally a control pitcher, as you know. He's already walked 2 men.
The left fielder, number 26, Joe Rudy.
Right-handed batting, Joe Rudy up with Bando on second, Jackson on first, 2 out. Today's game at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland. Visiting with us today, Jerry Holtzman of the Chicago Sun-Times, also a columnist for the Sporting News, author of a very fine book, No Cheering in the Press Box. Yours truly, Herb Carneal from the Minnesota Twins, and right now Cuellar's got 2 men on with 2 out, no score in the first inning. The pitch in the dirt, blocked by Hendricks. He couldn't find the ball for a second, but it was right there in the left-handed batter's box. 1 ball and no strikes to count. So Cuellar struggling a bit here in the first inning. The amazing thing yesterday about Vida Blue, I think, was the fact that his control was so good. Of course, Baltimore did help him out now and then. They swung at some bad pitches. But Blue, who had had some control trouble during the regular season, didn't walk a man. In fact, he had only 1 3-ball count, and that came in the 8th inning on Earl Williams. He got him on a 3rd called strike on a 3-2 pitch. Now Cuellar delivers to Rudy. A low curve, and it's ball 2. So the count is 2-0 to Rudy.
Also, what was remarkable about Vida Blue's performance yesterday is that I can recall a time, many times, when he threw nothing but fastballs, and that's why he was constantly being beaten. And yesterday, he threw nothing but fastballs and won.
It was just one of those days when Blue was overpowering. You could tell that because Baltimore with 8 right-handed batters in the lineup, but nobody was getting around on him. Most of the balls hit up in the air by Baltimore yesterday were hit all to the right of center. Etchebarren hit one to the center field fence, but it was caught by North. That's the closest Baltimore came to scoring. There's a high, wide fastball to Rudy, and the count is 3 balls and no strikes to Rudy. If he gets on there, Gene Bennett would come up. Cuellar started the inning off by getting Campaneris and North on ground balls. Walked Bando and Jackson, each on a 3-2 pitch. Now he's behind Rudy, 3-0. Holtzman leading in the series, 2 games to 1 in a best of 5. The winner, of course, representing the American League in the World Series, which will start in the National League City, either Los Angeles or Pittsburgh Saturday. Here's the pitch. Fastball strike on the inside corner. Rudy backed up from it, but Dave Phillips called it. Now it's 3-1. 5 batters coming up for Oakland here in the first inning, and Cuellar has gotten to 3 balls on 4 of them.
I assume that Rudy will be swinging on this pitch.
Shouldn't be much question about it. He did step out, look down to Bobby Winkles, coaching at third. Cuellar bluffs the throw to second. Bando gets back. A bright, sunshiny day again.
This is the kind of situation, though, where you want Cuellar to throw as many pitches as possible. Just make him work.
Outfield is slightly into left on Rudy. Number 26. Joe Rudy at 99 RBIs during the regular season. 1 here in the championship series. Got a staring contest right now. Finally, Cuellar gets the sign. He delivers, and it is a strike. A breaking ball in the outside corner, and it's 3-2. The 4th time in the inning that Cuellar has gone to a 3-2 count. So now Bando from second. Jackson from first will be running, with 2 down and a full count to Rudy. Cuellar working very deliberately right now. He's waiting for Rudy to get back in the batter's box as they try to get together. Cuellar has his sign. The 3-2 delivery, a curveball, and it's a check swing foul. Rudy couldn't make up his mind, took a half swing and just fouled the pitch off. So the count rides along at 3 balls and 2 strikes.
It's a very interesting thing, Herb, that the Oakland Ball Club has Rudy and Sal Bando, you know, their top 2 RBI men, and they have 2 different men leading in home runs, Reggie Jackson and Gene Kennett. It's a very unusual, situation.
That it is. Boy, that big 4 really throwing a lot of runs for Oakland this year. They led the league in runs scored, the team did. There's a change low, and that's ball 4 to Joe Rudy. And Earl Weaver on the double now, comes out to talk to Cuellar, who has walked the bases loaded. Baltimore's going to get the bullpen going with Ross Grimsley out there. The base is loaded now on bases on balls. And Gene Tennis will be coming up. And as we've been mentioning throughout the course of the series, Gene Tennis, certainly the most deceptive 211 hitter in the American League. And so far in this series, he has not had a hit in 8 times up, but he has walked 3 times. He led the American League in walks with 110 this year. Weaver's still out there talking to Cuellar and Elrod Hendricks, and now Dave Phillips going out to try to break it up. Bando's on third, Jackson on second, Rudy on first. Interesting situation, Jerry. I think that normally with Hunter knocked out of the box in the opening game, you don't expect Hunter to have 2 bad games in a row, and yet Baltimore has been shut out twice in a row now, and they have too much hitting ability to be shut out 3 times in a row.
Well, it certainly would be unusual. Actually, I certainly agree that Hunter is almost never beaten twice in a row. That's one of the things he really has going for him today. Plus, of course, he's got a bases loaded situation right now with only 1 out. 2 outs.
Now Bobby Gritch comes in to say something to Cuellar, and now Hendricks is going back out to talk to Cuellar, while Grimsley, the left-hander, warms up in the bullpen for Baltimore. Gene Tennis at the plate with Bando on third, Jackson on second, Rudy on first. The walks have been in succession after Cuellar retired the first 2 batters. 37-year-old Mike Cuellar. Now ready. With the bases loaded, 2 out. No score in the top of the first inning. He's going to the windup. The pitch on the way. Breaking ball low. 1 ball and no strikes. It's been a real struggle here in the first inning for Cuellar. Outfield is towards left on Tennis. Gritch, the second baseman, stationed well over towards the bag. Howell about 15 feet off the line at first. Robinson about 10 feet off the line at third base. Belanger guarding the hole. 1 ball and no strikes to Tennis. Cuellar leaning in to take the sign from Elrod Hendricks. And the pitch from the left-hander. Fastball in there, strike. 1-1 the count.
Well, Cuellar certainly needed that one. He's been wild with all of his breaking stuff so far.
Gene Tennis, 26 home runs during the season, 73 RBIs. The 1-1 delivery to him. And it is a strike at the knees. He thought it was low. Phillips called it on him. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Tennis, the type of a batter that you like to keep the ball down on him. Sal Bando hit a home run yesterday. Is a good low ball hitter. Tennis likes the ball around from the waist up. Cuellar's ahead of him, 1-2. Here's the windup, the pitch on the way. Fastball, high pop-up off third base. Robinson will have a play. Brooks Robinson under it. He has it. Cuellar threw his fastball and got Tennis on a foul to Brooks Robinson. No runs, no hits, no errors, 3 walks and 3 left for Oakland. Score at the end of the first half inning. Oakland nothing. Baltimore coming up.
The Oakland A's are confident that they have won the big one in the American League playoffs. The A's are using veteran Jim Hunter on the mound today against the Orioles in an effort to wrap up their 3rd straight American League flag. Vida Blue's brilliant 2-hitter and Sal Bando's homer was all the A's needed on Tuesday to move a game ahead in the best-of-5 series. As close as they are to clinching another pennant, the A's are still feuding among themselves. First baseman Gene Tennis sharply criticized manager Alvin Dark for removing him for a pinch runner and hinted that it was to satisfy Oakland owner Charles Finley. Well, be that as it may, Tennis was removed from the game on Tuesday, and his replacement, Herb Washington, who is strictly a pinch runner for the Oakland Athletics, he does not bat. Herb Washington came up and promptly tried to steal second and was thrown out on a close play. And when he came to the dugout after being replaced in the lineup, Tennis slammed his helmet into the corner of the dugout and made his feelings known to manager Alvin Dark.
Following this American League Championship game on many of these same stations, you'll hear the 4th game of the National League Championship Series with Marty Berneman and Bob Gibson reporting from Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles, where the Dodgers lead the Pirates 2-1. In the field now for the Oakland A's, Ray Fosse behind the plate with Hunter on the mound, Bando at third, Campaneris at short, Green at second, Tennis at first, Rudy, North, and Washington in the outfield. Jim Catfish Hunter. He's a prime candidate, Jerry, for that Cy Young Award.
He certainly is. He's 25 and 12 for the year. You can't do much better than that. He was he finished the season with winning 17 of his last 21 decisions. I would guess that he's going to be the MVP in the American League. You know, the Cy Young winner. It's going to be interesting to see who wins the MVP in this league. Joe Rudy of Oakland's going to get a lot of votes, and of course so is Sal Bando and Bobby Grich of Baltimore.
Hunter was 2-0 this year against Baltimore. Rich Coggins, left-handed batting right fielder, up in the first pitch low ball. Coggins 0 for 7 in the series. Baltimore roughed up Hunter in the opening game of the series last Saturday at Oakland. They hit 3 home runs off him, and Hunter went out in the 5th inning, giving up 6 runs in 4 2/3 innings. Low for the ball, 2-0. He didn't actually have a control problem Saturday from the standpoint of walking batters, but he was throwing a lot of pitches too high. Fastball strike in over the knees of Coggins, 2-1 the count. Hunter, of course, is rated as one of the outstanding control pitchers in baseball. He goes with a standard assortment: fastball, curve, and a slider. There's a swing and a dive hit out into center field. North is there and makes the catch. Another very high, bright sky today, and you'll notice a lot of times out there, North did at that time, and try to turn to the side so you don't have to look directly up into that sun with the ball hit up in the air. Between center and right field especially, you're looking right in the sun. Second day in a row we haven't had a cloud in the sky. It was a little overcast this morning, but it soon cleared up. Here's Paul Blair, 3 for 11 in the series, putting a homer and 2 RBIs. Swing and a miss at the fastball. Blair hit a home run in the first inning Saturday to get Baltimore going against Hunter. Blair, great center fielder, hit 17 homers for Baltimore. Strike on the outside corner, 0-2. Blair didn't like the call. He was at the grandstand umpires here at Memorial Stadium. No score last half of the first inning. Baltimore batting with 1 out and nobody on. George Stoller coaching at first. Billy Hunter at third for Baltimore. And there's the drive foul down the right field line. Blair protecting the plate. Fouled it off, and it's still 0-2. George Bamberger, pitching coach. And now Earl Weaver charging out of the dugout. Dave Phillips, the umpire at the plate, walking over to meet him halfway, and there's a real rhubarb going. And it's about the second pitch to Blair that was called a strike, and apparently the Baltimore dugout on the third base side really started to get on Phillips. Now the first base umpire, Marty Springstead, comes up. Weaver is really mad. He's really storming at Dave Phillips. Now Larry Knapp, the senior member of the firing at third base, shepherding Weaver back to the dugout. That if this game was a regular season game, Weaver might have been thrown out by this time. I think you're absolutely right. I think the umpires normally will let you play a little more and get away with a little more in a championship series or a World Series. Here's the pitch on the way to Blair, and it is a ball outside.
Well, you know, I can't blame Weaver. You know, he wants to get every edge that he possibly can. And it's not a bad idea to complain in the first inning.
Swing and a miss. That was a fastball, and Blair swung and missed. 2 down, nobody on. No score in the last of the first inning. Let's pause now 10 seconds for station identification. This game is coming to you on the Mutual Broadcasting System's American League Championship Network.
This is the American Forces Radio and Television Service.
Bobby Grich swinging, fouling the first pitch for a strike. Bobby Grich, 3 for 12 in the series. He hit a 2-run homer off Hunter on Saturday. That was a blow that knocked Hunter out of the line. Gave Baltimore a 4-run inning in the 5th. Swing and a miss, 0-2, and incidentally, that's the last time Baltimore has scored in this series. Being shut out yesterday. They have been playing 22 consecutive innings. Low bridge to Gretsch on the 2-strike pitch, 1-2. There's the windup by Hunter, the pitch on the way. Swing a high pop-up. Bando coming up from third, halfway to the plate, and he takes it. Rich pops to Bando, the third baseman, and the Orioles go 1-2-3.
Ladies and gentlemen,
So the score, Oakland nothing, Baltimore nothing at the...
Getting back to Alvin Dark, who admits he was the second choice as far as manager goes, because Finley, after it was announced in the clubhouse last year during the World Series, reneged later and said he still wanted Williams to be his manager, but Williams said he had made up his mind and he was through with the Oakland Athletics. Dark realized that he was a second choice when he joined the team 2 weeks before spring training this year. He said, I've never wondered about Mr. Finley. I've always thought he was a help to his manager, and even though he has had differences with his managers, he has always offered to help them. He says all managers and general managers have to work very closely. I came into this job at Oakland with this thought. He is the general manager and the owner combined in one. I don't have a middleman the way other managers do, so it's his job to do what he's doing. Dark added, for some reason, whenever Charlie Finley comes into the dugout or the clubhouse, everybody makes something of it. I don't think what he does is wrong. As a matter of fact, I've gone to him and asked him to give me his thoughts on things.
We all want to congratulate Bill Burton, the Yankee manager. He was named by the Sporting News yesterday as the manager of the year in the American League, and he did a great job having the Yankees right up there for the final couple of days. Jerry, I think one thing interesting is that of all the managers in the championship series in both leagues, Danny Murtaugh of the Pirates, Walter Alston of the Dodgers, Earl Weaver of the Orioles, and Alvin Dark of Oakland, not one of them has been told definitely is going to be back. At least there hasn't been any announcement of that.
That's right. I'm pretty sure that Danny Murtaugh, the Pittsburgh Pirates, won't be back. All the indications are that he's going to retire again after this year. This is his fourth term as the Pittsburgh manager. As far as Earl Weaver is concerned, I'm sure he'll be back too. Jerry Hoffelder doesn't like to talk contract until the end of the season.
There's Davis with a base hit up the middle. Tommy Davis gets his fourth hit and 12 times up. Drives into the center field, bringing up Boot foul.
So you talk about players quitting and reaching the end of their career. I can recall about 3 or 4 years ago when Tommy Davis was with the Cubs, and the Cubs released him, sent him his release on Christmas Eve. And they thought he was all through, too.
Tommy Davis led Baltimore in runs batted in this year with 84, 2 more than Bobby Gretsch. That looked like a letter-high fastball that he hit right up the middle. Well, the first Baltimore hit, and now here's Boot Powell, who went hitless and 4 times up last Saturday. Score in the last half of the second inning. Davis, no threat to run at first base. Bennett will not hold against him with Powell, left-handed batter up. Hunter delivers. Fastball strike on the low outside corner. It's 0-1. Both Powell up and Don Baylor on deck. Big John Powell. He was one of the Orioles who really helped with some key hits coming down the stretch. Swing is a hard ground ball to Green. To Campaneris for 1. Back to first to Tennant for 2. Boy, he hit that ball hard, but right on the ground to Green. And a 4-6-3 double play.
That's just about the best play in baseball, the double play. Well, I mean, for the pitcher who's in trouble, that is.
It was really hard hit, but Dick Green came up with it cleanly. Green, Campaneris to Tennant. 2 out, nobody on. Here's Don Baylor. He's 3 for 11 in the series. Right-handed batting Baltimore left fielder. High fly ball, right center field, not very deep. North, the center fielder. To his left, makes the catch for the out. No runs, 1 hit, no errors, and nobody left on. The score at the end of 2 innings. Oakland nothing, Baltimore nothing.
Well, later today, the Pittsburgh Pirates hope to even up their series with the L.A. Dodgers at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. On Tuesday, the Pirates staved off elimination with Willie Stargell leading the attack with a big 3-run homer in the first inning. and it got the Pirates off winging, and eventually they breezed to a victory 7-0 behind the Dodgers, who made more errors than they collected hits yesterday. The Dodgers had only 4 base hits off Bruce Keeson and his relief pitcher, and they committed 5 errors. Danny Murtaugh still realizes his club is down 2-1, and it could all end today, but he said he isn't discouraged. He said, we realize we have to beat Don Sutton and then Andy Messersmith back-to-back in their home parks, and we think they're the 2 best pitchers in baseball, but we feel it's a whole new season now. After all, look how far back we were in May and June. A lot of people counted us out when we got off to a bad start, but we came back and persevered and won it. So it's not impossible for us to do it against a good team like the Dodgers.
Jerry, congratulations on your book, No Cheering in the Press Box. Had some great reviews on it. Why, tell us, son, when did you first get the idea to write a book like that?
Well, I got the idea about 3 years ago. I went around the country and I saw 44 sports writers. The average age was about 75. Most of them, almost all of them are retired. And I just thought that somebody should go around while there was still the opportunity and that they would have a lot of old wonderful stories to tell. Many stories that they themselves have never written. And that's really what happened. It's a book of a lot of, it's a book about old men reliving their lives, really. Telling a lot of stories about Babe Ruth and Ty Cobb and the old timers.
No cheering in the press box. Here's Billy North leading off for Oakland. Takes the first pitch low for the ball. North out third to first in the first inning. Lined up by Cuellar, the pitch on the way. Swinging a bouncing ball down the third baseline. Robinson up with it. Fires over to first and got in by a step. North can really fly, and that ball gets a slow roller that Robinson charged and got him in first base. Here's Bando, who walked in the first inning.
A lot of third basemen couldn't make that play. But of course, Butch Robinson does. He makes it look very easy.
That he did. Have to contend with a guy as fast as Bill Norris.
All right, half of the third basemen in the league, they couldn't have made that play in time to catch him.
Very easy on a ball like that to try to rush it, and you don't ever come up with a ball. Here's Sal Bando now. 2 home runs in this series. The game winner yesterday, the only run. Cuellar's pitch. A low curve, ball 1. No score in the top of the third inning. 1 out of nobody on for Oakland. Cuellar's pitch. Curve in the dirt. 2-0.
A lot of people compare Sal Bando with Ron Santa with the Chicago Cubs, who's now with the White Sox. And they really are a lot alike. They're both third basemen. They're both Italians. They're both right-handed power hitters. And they're both team leaders. Bando really is a fellow that keeps this ball club together. And I'm sure that he'll be a strong choice for the most valuable player honors in the American League. I think he'll get most of his competition from his teammate, Joe Rudy.
The called strike to him on a fastball. The curve, he hits it easily back to Cuellar and over the first for the out. Sal Bando, the team captain of the Oakland club.
I asked Bando yesterday after the game if it was an upsetting thing for him and for his teammates when Gene Tennis threw his helmet out of the dugout when he was pulled for a pinch runner. I think that it's kind of a Bush thing for Tennis to do, but Bando said, he says, we all want to play 9 innings, and I can understand how he feels. And Bando really he almost always says the right thing at the right time. He's a great team leader.
That he is. Here's Reggie Jackson up, and the pitch is high for a ball. The thing about Bando, he hit 22 home runs in the regular season. He hit at least 1 against every club except Baltimore. Now he's hit 2 against the Orioles in this series. Cuellar's pitch. Fastball and a high pop foul up to the left side of play, and it's 1-1.
After yesterday's game, one of the sports writers asked Bando how a hitter of his ability could be so inconsistent to hit 240. And Bando made a pretty good remark. He says, I wasn't inconsistent at all. He says, I hit 240 all year.
And he drove in runs all year.
He certainly did.
Here's the 1-1 pitch to Jackson. Too low for the ball. 2 balls and 1 strike now to Reggie Jackson.
One of the local columnists this morning, Phil Jackman, one of the Baltimore papers, accused Reggie Jackson of being a hot dog for some of his actions yesterday against Palmer in the late innings.
Fastball on the low outside corner. Now Jackson's done that. Big 2 balls and 2 strikes. Jackson has a habit of stepping out of the batter's box. Palmer got a little impatient. I guess that's what led to their exchange. Nothing serious. Fastball low outside. It's 3-2 now to Reggie Jackson. Again, I think the Oriole dugout, giving it to Dave Phillips, the plate umpire.
Jackson finished the season with 29 home runs. I thought he might hit 40 the way he started.
There's a foul down and back. 3 balls and 2 strikes. Yeah, he got away very fast. A lot of people thought he might hit 40, maybe even 50 home runs.
Right.
He said, but he thought about that too, but he says, after you go a couple of weeks, maybe you only drive in a run or two and don't hit any home runs, then you're willing to settle for 30.
That's right.
Here's the pitch. And it is low, ball 4. So Jackson walks, and there's a 5th walk given up by Mike Cuellar. So far, that's the only way Oakland has put anybody on is by the base on ball. Joe Rudy now, who walked in the first inning.
Many players on the Oakland team think that Joe Rudy is the best hitter among them. He almost always makes contact. He's really an outstanding hitter. But he doesn't have the awesome power that, Bando and Jackson have, or even Kenneth.
Bando hit 22 homers, drove in 103 runs. Joe Rudy hit 22 home runs, drove in 99 runs. Reggie Jackson hit 29 homers, drove in 93 runs. And Gene Tennis hit 26 home runs and drove in 73.
Plus, they've got all that great pitching.
Curve is low ball. That's right, Jerry. And also, of course, as far as runs batted in, they got a couple of guys that get on base a lot. Campaneris and North.
That's right. And I think one of the things that's been overlooked is they have an absolutely wonderful defensive ball club. Outstanding in the infield, good outfield play.
And the pitch. Line drive is hit, trapped by Gritz. He throws the foul, and Rudy is out. Hot shot that was trapped by Bobby Gritz, and he throws out Joe Rudy at first base. No runs, no hits, no errors. 1 left arm. Score at the end of 2.5 innings here at Baltimore is the A's nothing, Orioles nothing.
Well, there was some big news in pro basketball today, and not good if you're a Boston Celtics fan. Doctors in Boston today say that center Dave Cowens will be lost to the champion Celtics for 7 to 8 weeks because of a fractured foot. Cowens was injured after pushing off the right foot during the third quarter of an exhibition loss to the Milwaukee Bucks at Madison Square Garden Tuesday night. Dave was playing his first game since bruising the arch on the same foot 12 days ago in a game with Denver. The Celtics team physician, Dr. Thomas Silva, one of the 3 examining Cowens today at University Hospital in Boston, diagnosed the injury as an undisplaced fracture of the metatarsal bone behind the big toe on his right foot. The 50-year pro from Florida State will be on crutches for 2 weeks and will not have his foot placed in a cast, according to the doctor. He said Cowens should be able to play by the end of November or the very early part of December. But that's a big loss, and 2 big superstars are now out. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is out with a broken hand and an injured eye for about 6 weeks.
Well, Jerry and I want to greet some of the stations on our worldwide network, including KHVH in Honolulu, Hawaii, where it is now 9 o'clock a.m., so a pleasant good morning to you folks there. Also a greeting to WVTS in Terre Haute, Indiana, and WNNR in New Orleans. Butch Robinson leads it off in the third for Baltimore. 1 for 9 in the series. That was a line drive homer off Hunter last Saturday. Fastball, strike.
Had as many 2-run singles as Butch Robinson.
There's the pitch. On outside of ball. That's right, Jerry. Brooks now has 2,698 hits, which is really amazing because I think he's only hit over 300 in his career. He is not fast to foot. He doesn't beat out front. He doesn't have many legs. Here's the drive hit out to right field, backing off is Washington, and he makes the catch. Brooks Robinson with a long fly to the right fielder, Quado Washington. Run away, and it'll bring up Elrod Hendricks, the catcher.
I can't think of anybody who's tougher at the plate with men at second and third than Brooks Robinson. He just always gets that single to right center, right in that spot. And, of course, in yesterday's game, some of these sports writers second-guessed Earl Weaver for having Baylor steal. But I think Weaver knew what he was doing. If Baylor gets to second base, all Robinson has to do is just get a single, and it's a tie ball game.
Left-handed batting Elrod Hendricks takes time for the ball. Elrod is 1 for 4 in the series. Mark Belanger's on deck. We have no score. Last of the third inning, Catfish Hunter. 25 and 12 on the regular season. Delivers high and wide over the mitt. Ray Fossey for ball 2.
I was talking to Elrod the other day when I first got here, and Elrod, I asked him how much longer he's going to go, and Elrod says, well, as long as I hit 190, he says, they'll always have me back. He says, they don't expect much more than that.
There's a pitch outside, and it's now 3-0.
said the worst thing that can happen is if he hits 250 one year, they'll expect him to hit 250 every year.
He's done a good job for him. He's sort of a spot catcher. And the pitch is a strike at the letters. He was ready to go to first, but Phillips called it a strike. Now it's 3-1. Kelly Hendricks loves to play the game. He's one of those fellows who always seems to be in a good mood. Here's the windup by Hunter. The pitch on the way. Swing and a miss. 3 balls, 2 strikes. No score in the last of the third inning here at Baltimore's Memorial Stadium. Temperature in the low 60s. A beautiful afternoon. Not a cloud in the sky. There's very light breeze out of the northeast. He's just blowing in from left, but very lightly. Swing and a miss. A low fastball, and Hendricks is out. And, well, that's one reason that Catfish Hunter is the great pitcher that he is. He got behind Hendricks 3-0, but he still came back to strike him out. Mark Belanger looking for his first hit of the series. Mark is 0 for 9.
He's one of the most underrated players in the American League, Herb. I'm sure you realize that. He's a great shortstop. Might even be the best shortstop in the league, defensively.
Pitch outside the ball. I referred to him yesterday as Mr. Consistency. Oh, God. Just, you almost never see him die for a ball or anything like that, but he's always out there making the play.
The amazing thing, he hits 225, and he's really one of the best players in the club and does more than many, many players who hit for a much higher average.
There's a foul, 1 ball, 1 strike. Belanger is the type, of course, who can execute pretty good on getting guys over with a bunt, hitting behind the runner.
Right. He also almost never makes, he almost never bobbles the ball in the field. He almost always gets his man.
And the pitch is outside, 2-1. Another thing he does so well is getting the ball to the second baseman on that double play, giving him a good throw. Here's a windup by Hunter, and the pitch on the way to him. Swing and a miss. We'll throw a low outside pitch, and it's 2-2.
Of all these shortstops, Belanger is possibly the most classic in style. He's tall and lean and rangy. The old Marty Marion type.
Here's a swing, foul ball. Right straight back. Balls, 2 strikes. And the pitch on the way. Another swing and a foul back and out of play. So the count remains 2-2 to Mark Belanger. Hunter's pitch to the minimum number of batters thanks to a double play. He's got up just for 1 hit. And the pitch is up high to Belanger, so again Hunter goes 3-2. When a pitcher like Hunter goes 3-2, you don't think too much about it. You almost know he's going to get the next pitch somewhere around the plate.
Also, he's down at the he's down at the bottom end of the batting order.
There's a pitch that's high. We did it for Catfish Hunter. Ball 4, first walk of the game. Right now, we'll pause 10 seconds for station identification. This game coming to you on the Mutual Broadcasting System's American League Championship Network.
This is the American Forces Radio and Television Service.
You're listening to the Voice of Information for the American Forces at 790 and 1420.
So far, that's been the upset of this game as Hunter has walked a batter and the number 9 batter in the order at that. And that's just about the average for Catfish Hunter, 1 walk a game over the season. Goes over to first base. Belanger gets back. Belanger also is an excellent base runner.
I think if you check it out, you'll find that Hunter usually walks the bottom end of the order.
Hagen's up, and a swing and a fly ball hits the right field. Claudell Washington to his right, under it. He takes it. So Coggin to his fly to center in the first inning. Flies to right to end this inning. No runs, no hit. No errors, 1 left. So the score is Oakland 0, Baltimore 0.
And it's another fine pitching effort, and the Orioles, of course, are running into a problem now. Coming into this ball game today, the Orioles had not scored since the 5th inning of the first game at Oakland when Cuellar won on Saturday 6-3. So they've got an offensive problem. They've got to get some hits generating and score some runs, and that is a tough assignment against Jim Catfish Hunter. But to date, coming into the ball game, 22 scoreless innings, and now Catfish Hunter has made it 24. So it's strong pitching for Oakland and strong pitching for Baltimore, too. Palmer lost the heartbreaker on Tuesday, that only run scoring on the homer by Sal Bando. The weather in Los Angeles is a bit better today than it was yesterday. Yesterday they had a lot of shower activity, and it was a threat of rain, 40% threat to cancel a ball game, but they did get it in. Probably the Dodgers wish that the game had been canceled or postponed another day, because yesterday Walter Alston said it's possible we played the worst game we have played this season. And he could be right. The Dodgers committed 5 errors and gave the game away very early.
Baltimore's Memorial Stadium. Herb Carneal here with Jerry Holtzman of the Chicago Sun-Times and the Sporting News. No score at the end of 3, and Jerry Baltimore now has been blanked 25 consecutive innings.
Well, let's see what happens at Cuellar now. He's had his 3 shaky innings. Let's see if he can really settle down and start mowing him down. 1, 2, 3. This is when he starts getting tough, about the 4th inning.
Cuellar. 5 men. He walked 3 in the first inning, 1 in the second, and 1 in the third. Gene Tennis will lead it off for Oakland. He fouled out to Brooks Robinson with the bases loaded in the first inning. The windup by Cuellar, the pitch on the way. That slow curve outside the ball.
Dennis is a good high ball hitter.
And the pitch. Curve and a strike call. Thrown him with the hook twice. 1 ball, 1 strike. Now Tennis didn't like the call. Waddell Washington on deck, and then Ray Fosse due up. Oakland, no runs, no hits, no errors. Baltimore, no runs, just 1 hit and no errors. Here's the windup and the pitch on the way. Breaking ball is high. 2-1.
Did you hear that, Herb? Some fan just yelled, "Send in a pinch runner for him." Referring to yesterday's incident.
Yeah, Tennis was really upset, as you pointed out a while ago, through his helmet.
Then he broke a couple of bats in the runway later.
Check swing foul off to the right. 2 balls and 2 strikes. We were talking about Herb Washington the other day, Jerry, and Charlie Finley doesn't like to refer to him as the designated runner. He refers to him as his designated stealer. But so far, Herbie is 0 for 2 finding a steal in this series. Here's the pitch on the way. Low fastball, and it's now 3-2.
Well, when you see Herb Washington, the Olympic sprint champion, you really, it makes you appreciate Lou Brock more than ever before. Because, it takes more than just speed to steal a base.
Absolutely. There's the payoff pitch to Tennis. And a swing and a missed fastball. He kept it down, and he struck him out. Mike Cuellar with his second strikeout. Waddell Washington now has bounced to first, his only time up in the game.
One thing about Cuellar is that, despite the fact he's been in so much trouble, he's been able to retire the first man in every inning, which is really the sign of a good pitcher. At least he gets that first out.
Right. In fact, so far, in the first 3 innings, he got the first 2 men out in each inning. It takes a lot of pressure off him. His pitch is curve blowing outside a ball. He walked the bases loaded in the first inning after getting Campaneris and North. Then Green walked with 2 out in the second, and Jackson walked with 2 out in the third inning. 1 out here in the 4th, and the pitch on the way. Swing and a miss. Washington had a good cut. The fastball. 1 ball and 1 strike to Claudel Washington. Shadows of a light standard is now cast right between the mound and home plate. I don't know. I imagine that doesn't help the batter any to follow the ball.
No, it doesn't. This is really a tough ballpark to play in because the sun hits the outfield pretty good. There's no roof here.
There's a slider low for the ball. 2-2. The pitcher is now in sunlight, and then that shadow of the light standard is in between the mound and home plate. Home plate is also in sunshine, but the shadow in between. There's a bounding ball hit out behind second. Belanger gloves it. The peg to foul is high. Ball goes off the dugout, bounces back on, and they're going to award Washington second because the ball did hit the Oakland dugout. Belanger did a a good job. He got over there behind second base to come up with the ball, but he was off balance when he made the throw, and he threw it over the head of Boog Powell. A two-base error for Belanger. So Washington is now on second.
That again shows the importance of speed in a baseball game. If this had been a slow runner, Belanger would have been able to take his time and made a very easy throw, but he had to hurry his throw.
Well, here's Ray Fosse, the catcher. He struck out on a fastball in the second inning. Washington now on second with one out. No score in the game in the top of the fourth inning. Oakland leading in the series, 2-1. That's the 5-game series. There's a line by at the left. Is it fair or foul? It is a foul ball. Just foul down the left field corner. One strike to count to Ray Fosse. Jerry, I remember yesterday, Sal Pando did that just before he hit a home run.
So he fouled off 7 pitches before that home run.
One of them went foul just by inches down in the left field corner. That's right, he hit the 11th pitch to him on that trip to the plate in the fourth inning yesterday for the home run, Pando. One strike now to Fosse. Cuellar into the stretch, he delivers. Strike, fastball at the knees, and Fosse thought it was low. Now he argues with Dave Phillips, who's having a rough afternoon from both sides here on balls and strikes. 0-2 to Fosse. Dick Green on deck. No score. Top of the fourth inning. Claudel Washington, good running speed at second base. The outfield is a bit towards left. Infield up a step or two in the event they might have a play on Washington. The stretch by Cuellar. And his pitch. Fastball. Oh, just missed. Off the outside part of the plate. Now the Baltimore fans are unhappy. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Elrod Hendricks hanging aside out there for Cuellar. Claudel Washington with a lead at second. And the left-hander's pitch. Fastball is hit on the ground to Belanger. Washington checked at second and the throw to first for the out. Short to first to get Fosse with the ball hit in front of him. Washington had to stay at second. 2 down, and that's Dick Green coming up. He walked in the second. Dick Green, the Oakland second baseman. We're talking to you today from Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland. Joey Holtzman, sports columnist of the Chicago Sun-Times and the Sporting News. Yours truly, Herb Carneal of the Minnesota Twins. And now Dick Green at the plate with Washington on second. 2 out and no score in the top of the fourth inning. Oakland's had somebody on base every inning. The stretch by Cuellar, the pitch. Fastball, strike, low outside corner. 0-1. Memorial Stadium. They seat a little over 52,000 here. Yesterday they had 32,000, which actually was larger attendance than they had expected. They were looking for a topper around 25 or 26, but it was a beautiful day and they had a good gate sale. There's a low fastball, and Green chops it to Cuellar over the Powell, and the side's out. 1-3 to play. No runs, no hits, 1 error, 1 left. The score at the end of 3.5 is the Oakland A's 0, the Baltimore Orioles 0.
Well, of course, Tuesday, the big hit of the day, and maybe the biggest hit of the series to date, was that home run by Sal Bando that provided Vida Blue with the only run he needed. After the game Tuesday, Orioles losing pitcher Jim Palmer said that Vida Blue just pitched a little better than he did. Well, we'll be getting back to the ball game in just a moment at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore. There is no score, and a correction. We said 24 innings for the Baltimore Orioles. We should say 25. They came into this ball game with a 22-inning scoreless streak, and they haven't scored a run yet in this ball game through the first 3 turns at bat, so it's a 25-inning drought. Now let's get a report from Dodger Stadium on how the preparations are going there.
Contrast to yesterday, the weather is simply out of this world here in Los Angeles this afternoon. Blue skies overhead. The temperature is expected to be in the mid-70s. And before another sellout crowd in Dodger Stadium, we're going to have a rematch this afternoon between the 2 opening game pitchers that we saw in Pittsburgh. Left-hander Jerry Royce will go for the Pirates, and right-hander Don Sutton, who pitched such superlative ball for the Dodgers in that 4-3-0 shutout Saturday afternoon, will try to wrap things up here in Los Angeles.
We interrupt this program for a special report from Mutual News in Washington. President Gerald Ford has just completed a formal White House news conference at which he condemned the violence accompanying a school busing order in Boston. Discussing the economy, the president said America is not in a recession, and he hopes for a reduction in the rate of inflation by next year. The president said he still thinks he will probably run for re-election in 1976, and said he'll discuss his pardon of Richard Nixon only in testimony to the House Judiciary Committee. Mutual News will broadcast the President's news conference in full at 9:05 Eastern Time tonight. This special report has come to you from the Mutual News headquarters in Washington. We now rejoin the baseball playoffs in progress.
Davis in the second, but he was almost immediately doubled up. 4-6-3 with Powell with a sharp rap to Dick Green. Bobby Gretsch, he's popped up to Bando at third base in the first inning. No score in the last of the fourth inning. Of course, no tomorrow for Baltimore. They have to win today to stay alive in the series. In the best of 5 game set, Oakland leading 2-1. Bobby Gretsch. Baltimore second baseman up there. Throw to first base and Blair gets back. Paul Blair, one of the better base runners in the league. The pitch is blowing outside the ball. 1-0. Hunter got behind Blair, 2-0. Came into that fastball and Blair ripped it in the hole up for a solid single.
For some reason, Hunter is going to his fastball exclusively so far in this inning.
Now the stretch by the right-hander, and the pitch. And another one outside, ball 2, and now Fosse, the catcher, asking time. And he's going out to have a talk with Catfish Hunter, who has gotten behind on the first 2 batters here in the fourth inning. 2-0 to Bobby Gretsch, but Tommy Davis on deck. Well, we'd like to greet some more of our stations on our worldwide network here for the American League Championship Series, including KIBL in Beeville, Texas. WRIS in Roanoke, Virginia, and WVOR, Rochester, New York. Nobody out here for Baltimore. Blair getting a good lead at first base. Pettis holding with him a throw, and he gets back. Blair has 29 stolen bases, or 26 stolen bases, but has only caught 9 times. A great ratio. There's a high fly ball into right field. Washington, the right fielder, under it. And he makes the catch. So Gretsch flies to right. 1 gone. Blair is still at first, and Tommy Davis coming up.
Now, that could have been a good spot for a hit-and-run play right there. The only thing is that Gretsch is a very high strikeout man and doesn't always make contact. Of course, Tommy Davis is a great hit-and-run man.
Davis hit a letter-high fastball up the middle for a single in the second, but 2 pitches later, Powell hit into a 4-6-3 double play. Powell did hit the ball very hard, but right at Dick Green. Right now, Green in there talking to Catfish Hunter. Tommy Davis and Butch Robinson are allowed to call hit and run on their own by manager Earl Weaver, who is not a real firm believer in the hit and run play, but Davis and Butch Robinson both have good bat control. There he goes. The pitch is swung on and missed. Here's the throw. It's there, and he is out. Perfect throw by Fosse to Campaneris. Well, they tried to hit and run, but Davis missed the ball. It was down low on him. And a perfect throw by Fosse to Campaneris, and they had Blair sliding in. So there were 2 outs, nobody on.
Well, that's what happens when the batter misses the ball on a hit and run.
Ray Fosse has really been throwing well in this series.
Few players in the big leagues that have the bat control that Tommy Davis has.
That throw by Fosse was right on the money to get Blair sliding in. And here's a strike on the outside corner. It's 0-2. No score. Last of the fourth inning. 2 strikes now to right-hander batting Tommy Davis. Pitch off the outside corner. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Baltimore with only 3 base runners today, and 2 of those have been erased. Hunter's pitch. Swing, ground ball to Campaneris. He's up with it. Takes it out over to Pettis for the out. That's all for Baltimore. No runs, 1 hit, no errors, and nobody left on base. So the score here at Baltimore at the end of 4 innings. The A's nothing, the Orioles nothing.
Well, with the playoffs still underway and the World Series scheduled to start Saturday, and other professional sports will be getting underway tonight. The National Hockey League opens its 58th season with 7 games on tap. The league's 2 new expansion teams, the Washington Capitals and the Kansas City Scouts, are set for action. Washington will visit the New York Rangers at Madison Square Garden for their first game in league play, and Kansas City will play the Maple Leafs at Toronto, Canada. So another hockey season upon us, and this will be the biggest hockey season ever. Of course, There are now 2 conferences, and within each conference a number of divisions named after men who had done much to build up the National Hockey League to where it is today. And, of course, the National Hockey League will be expanding further within the next 3 to 4 years. So big things in the National Hockey League as it opens a regular 80-game schedule tonight. And after all is said and done, of the 18 teams, only 6 will be eliminated from the postseason playoffs.
What's really amazing so far is that Hunter hasn't really been quite that sharp, but yet he's only pitched to 1 batter over the minimum in the first 4 innings. He's faced 13 batters. He's had to help a 1 double play and 1 man caught stealing. And, of course, this is the way to do it, is to face as few batters as possible.
In the 2 games here at Baltimore now, the Orioles have not advanced a runner beyond first base. Last Oriole runner to get beyond first was Don Bailey, who got to second base on Sunday against Kenny Holtzman. Now here's Bert Campaneris, as Holtzman sends up the top of the order, Norris and Bando to follow. Campaneris is grounded to short, hit into a 6-4 force out. But twice he has hit the ball to Mark Belanger. Mike Cuellar, struggling with his control in the early part of the ball game, delivers, and it's low for a ball.
You know, Herb, the other players consider Campaneris to be really a working type of ball player. He's the kind of ball player, he earns about $90,000 a year, but he plays like he's earning about $20,000.
There's a foul on the ground to the left. 1 ball, 1 strike.
He plays extremely hard all the time, as if he's going to be sent down to the minor leagues tomorrow. That's one of the reasons he's such a good player.
Right.
He also saves his money, from what I hear.
And a pitch just outside a ball, and it's 2-1 now. Oakland has put somebody on base every inning. And Cuellar delivers. Swing and a miss. He went for a high wide pitch just now. 2 balls and 2 strikes to count. Cuellar has walked 5 this afternoon, and he has struck out 2.
There's another example of how cunning Cuellar is. That was a very bad pitch that Campaneris swung at. And Cuellar has that ability to make hitters swing at bad pitches.
Fastball hit up in here to right field. Hawkins is there, and he takes it for the out. Campaneris flies to right. 1 gone in the Oakland fifth. There's Billy Norris, who twice has bounced out to Brooks Robinson. Switch hitting center fielder, Bill Norris. Norris, who led the league in stolen bases this year with 54. Last year he had 53. Stands up in the front part of the batter's box and takes a strike over the knees, 0-1. Interesting to note that Jerry and fans are through the first 4 innings. Cuellar threw 86 pitches and Hunter only threw 45. This Cuellar was 3-2 on a lot of batters. High fastball that Norris went after. And it's 0-2.
There's Norris complaining again about that pitch.
0-2 the count, and Cuellar delivers to him, and he runs up on it and takes outside a ball. The count was 2 strikes, but look, he might try to surprise Brooks Robinson there. Robinson has backed off a bit with the count 2 strikes, figuring he would not bunt.
Well, I tell you, it wouldn't be too bad a play.
Swing, here's a ground ball to short. Good bounce for Belanger over to Powell at first base for the out. Well, its speed did make it pretty close at that, but he's out short the first 2 gone, and Sal Bando now has walked and hit back to Cuellar. No score in the top of the 5th inning. Oakland leading in the series 2-1. That's the 5 series.
You know, the Orioles haven't been, the A's haven't been able to hit Cuellar very solid. Only 1 put-out has been made by the Baltimore outfield so far. All the others in the infield.
He appears to have good stuff. It seems to me that he's had a surprisingly good fastball. We've mentioned that early in the game, that the fastball might be underrated. Here's an off-speed pitch, and it's pulled foul by Bando on the ground. Had him in front of it, and it's 0-1.
Cuellar always gets a lot of ground balls.
2 gone, nobody on in the top of the 5th inning. And the pitch on the way to Bando. Off the outside corner for a ball. 1-1 the count now to Sal Bando. 4 times in the last 5 years, this fellow has led his team in runs batted in, including this year with 103. And the pitch is outside.
You know, Herb, one of the unusual things about Bando is that he's a power hitter who chokes up on the bat.
That's right.
He doesn't swing from the bottom of the bat.
He crowds the plate, and he comes up on the handle of the bat about 3 inches. Swing and a miss. Fastball away from him this time, and it's 2-2.
Actually, I think more players should do that. I mean, Bando proves it, that, that you can choke up on the bat and still hit the long ball.
A swing and a foul to stay alive. So the count remains 2-2 to Bando. Baltimore plays him around towards left. Cuellar winding, and the pitch on the way. Fastball, and it's fouled upstairs. Out of play. The count remains 2 balls, 2 strikes.
I understand you were quite a long ball hitter in your day, Herb. Is that right?
I don't know. The only ones I ever hit went in the catcher's mitt. Line drive to the catcher, they used to say. Here's the pitch. And it's outside. 3 balls and 2 strikes, and now Hendricks going out to have a word with Mike Cuellar, who has now arrived at one of his familiar 3-2 counts this afternoon. His control has been getting better, though, as the game has worn along. Interesting to note, too, that as Cuellar gets in a better groove, he has been working much faster than he did early in the game. But he was really deliberating on every pitch. 3-2 to Bando. 2 out, nobody on, and no score. The pitch on the way. And it is high and outside. So Cuellar now has given up his 6th walk of the game. And it'll bring up Reggie Jackson, who has walked twice today.
Reggie Jackson.
This might be the most walks player has given in one game this year.
It's amazing now that Cuellar already has thrown more pitches in this game than Blue threw in 9 innings for Oakland yesterday. 103 pitches have been thrown already by Cuellar. He has walked 6, struck out 2. The only other runner to get on was by an error. Waddell Washington reaching on a wild throw by Belanger. Jackson looks at a fastball in there for a strike. Nothing in 1.
Well, here's a spot for Reggie to be a hero.
Close foul, not holding with Bando. And the pitch. Swing and a miss. Well, he was trying. If that was a home run cut, I never saw one. He really went after it. Mighty swing and a miss by Jackson.
I think the fact that Reggie's playing with a bad leg has certainly lessened the possibility of him, hitting the long ball. Although he went for it then. I don't think he's been swinging for it as consistently as he would ordinarily if he was.
Baltimore actually has not been playing him to pull the ball as they normally would. Wasted a fastball. 1 ball, 2 strikes to count out of Reggie Jackson. Oakland with runners on base every inning, but so far there's no score. The big threat came in the first inning when Cuellar walked 3 men with 2 out, got tennis for the 3rd on the foul to Bush Robinson. Here's a curve, just missed for a ball. 2-2. All even out of Reggie Jackson. Cuellar has the sign. Here's the stretch, and the pitch on the way. A fastball is up high. 3-2 now to Reggie Jackson, so Bando will be running with 2 down here. Jackson already has walked twice in the game. So Cuellar looking for his sign from Hendricks. The pitch on the way. A high fastball. Jackson has walked for the 3rd time today, and Cuellar has given up his 7th walk. 7 walks in 4 2/3 innings. Cuellar walked 4. Last Saturday in 8 innings. Now Hendricks going out to talk with him as Joe Rudy comes up. Rudy walked in the 1st inning. Then he hit a hard 1-hop liner to Bobby Gritch. To Gritch's left. He came up with the ball on the first bounce and threw him out for the 3rd out in the 3rd inning.
Herb, Reggie Jackson during the offseason, he sells real estate in the Phoenix, Scottsdale area. He almost sold me a lot last year in Carefree, Arizona.
Almost.
Almost, not quite. Maybe this next coming this next year.
In fact, I think they were talking about Reggie and his exchange yesterday with Jim Palmer. He said, really, we're good friends. He said, in fact, Jim bought some real estate from me out there. So.
Matter of fact, Palmer lives out there, too.
Yeah.
Well, I think everybody's Reggie Jackson's good friend. He's a very garrulous, open sort of fellow.
Oakland with a threat now. Bando on 2nd. Jackson on 1st, 2 out. Rudy at the plate. No score in the top of the 5th inning. Most of the afternoon, it's been a struggle for Mike Cuellar. Oakland left 6 runners on in the first 4 innings. Now they have 2 men on here in the 5th. Cuellar taking too much time, and Rudy steps out of the batter's box. distinctive stance of his, very widespread, close, and takes up most of the batter's box when he gets all spread out. He crouches over the plate. The curve in the dirt bounces off to the right. The runners will move up. Bando goes to third. Jackson to second on a wild pitch by Cuellar. Ball was in the dirt and skidded off to the right of the plate. So now the count is 1-0 to Joe Rudy. Grimsley again going out there in the Baltimore bullpen. He's been up. This is the third time he was up the first 2 innings. So now we have runners on second and third. They're going to walk Rudy with first base open. They'll give him the intentional walk. This will be the 8th walk off Cuellar. It will bring up Gene Tenace.
Herb, this is one of the underrated plays in baseball, the intentional walk. I think it really is a very good move. And for some reason, the fans don't like it. I just don't think they fully appreciate what a good move it is.
Okay, right now we'll pause 10 seconds for station identification. This game coming to you on the Mutual Broadcasting Systems American League Championship Network.
This is the American Forces Radio and Television Service.
This is American Forces Radio at 790 and 1420.
No question, that was a percentage move. They walked Rudy, who was a 293 hitter this year with 99 RBIs, to pitch to Tenace, who batted 211 and drove in 73. Tenace, though, is a very good clutch hitter, but now they have a force play at any base out there with 2 outs. The pitch is low for the ball, 1-0. Very unusual game. The only man to get on for Oakland with less than 2 outs was Washington in the 4th inning when he reached on an error. Everybody else has been on after 2 men have been retired in the inning. Whoa, ball 2. Taking ball down low, and here comes Earl Weaver out of the third base dugout.
The only thing wrong with walking a man to fill the bases is always the possibility that the pitcher will walk the next man. But a control pitcher such as Cuellar really shouldn't have that problem.
Well, no doubt that Cuellar has his back to the wall right now with the bases loaded and 2 out, and he's behind Gene Tenace, 2 balls and no strikes. Bando on third, Jackson on second, Rudy on first. No score in the first half of the 5th inning. Gene Tenace. Back foot anchored on the rear line of the batter's box. Here's the lineup by Cuellar, and the pitch on the way. Low fastball, and it's 3-0. 3 ball, no strike count to Gene Tenace, and no place to put him.
He's going to have to put this stick in there. Just hope somebody catches the ball.
There's the 3-0 delivery to Gene Tenace, and he took it for a strike. 3-1. 1 strike count, bases loaded and 2 down. Cuellar with a sign. Here's the lineup to pitch. Whoa, he walks him to first to the right. Gene Tenace, who has the knack of getting that base on balls, he led the league, remember, in walks this year, although he did hit only 211. He walked 110 times. Forcing in Bando from third with the first run of the game. Jackson to third, Rudy to second. Tenace, of course, will get an RBI. Walk of the game that Oakland has had 1 intentional walk.
I think it might be time to stick a fork in Cuellar and take him out.
Boy, he has really labored out there today.
Really.
Waddell Washington at the plate. Left-handed batter has bounced to first, leaps on an error. Swing, and he slices a foul off to the left. 1 strike. That is the 4th walk for Tenace in this series. He's following right along in the same pattern that he did in the regular season. Actually, in the series here, he's 0 for 10, but he's walked 4 times. Pitch is low for the ball. 1-1 now. To Waddell Washington. That's the run batted in, of course, for Tenace on the bases loaded walk. Jackson on third, Rudy on second now. Tenace on first. Oakland leading 1-0 in the 5th inning. Pitch is low and outside, 2-1. And this is going to be all for Cuellar. He has not given up a hit. But he will leave. The Looked like his control might come around there. He didn't walk anybody in the fourth inning, but then he started walking him again here with 2 outs. So Cuellar goes 4 2/3 innings. He didn't give up any hits. He walked 9, 1 intentionally, and struck out 2. A hand for Cuellar as he leaves, and Ross Kinsley coming on, and with this pause in the action.
Well, Mike Cuellar, who leads the ball game under unusual circumstances, he has not pitched that bad a ball game, but his control has been battling him all afternoon. Cuellar is one of the best deals the Baltimore Orioles ever made. You recall back in 1968, he was pitching with the Houston Astros, and in his final year with Houston, after spending 4 years with them, he wound up winning 8 and losing 11, and that was nothing really to write home about, but evidently the Orioles saw something they liked. They purchased his contract in a trade with infielder Elijah Tom Johnson for outfielder catcher Kurt Blefary. And Blefary never really caught on with Houston, so that turned out to be a great deal for Baltimore. And since 1969, Big Mike has been quite a consistent performer, even though he didn't have it today. Over that stretch of time, since the 69 season through 1974, Cuellar has won 125 games and lost only 65, so he's doubled his won-loss ratio. He's been a very consistent pitcher. He won 22 this year, but he didn't have it today.
Left-hander Ross Grimsley, he won 18 and lost 13 during the regular season. He came over from the Cincinnati Reds a couple of winters ago in exchange, or last winter actually, this has been his first full year in the American League, in exchange for Merv Rittman, the outfielder who went to the Reds. And this year, Grimsley won 18 and lost 13, mostly as a starter. He only relieved once. But he's a little more flexible as far as not needing as much rest between starts as fellas like Jim Palmer and Dave McNally. So he volunteered to go to the bullpen, and this is his second relief role in the series. He got the last 3 outs for Cuellar last Saturday.
If Grimsley completes the walk will be charged to the previous pitcher, who is Cuellar, of course, to be his 10th walk. The rules state that if you come in this kind of situation with 2 and 1, the walk is charged to the previous pitcher. If the count was 1-0, he'd be Grimsley's man all the way.
2-1 now to Cordell Washington. Ross Grimsley is following in his dad's footsteps as a major league pitcher. Grimsley's been in a lot of pressure-packed situations. He was in the 72 World Series against Oakland. There's a high top foul. It's going to be a play, though, to the left, and it's 2-2 to Washington. In the 1972 World Series, Grimsley started one game and lost 2-1, but he got credit for 2 wins in relief in that series. Left-hander with a standard assortment. Doesn't overpower the ball. Batters has the kinds of sneaky fastball. Right now, the 2-2 pitch coming down to Washington, and it's high for a ball. So it is 3-2 to Cordell Washington. Bases are loaded, and Oakland is leading 1-0 in the top of the 5th inning. Jackson on third, Rudy on second, Tennant on first. Washington steps out for a moment. They're playing him the opposite way. They don't figure he's going to pull the ball. Grimsley ready. Here's the windup. The left-hander's pitch on the way, and it's swung out. A bouncing ball. Too high for to Bobby Grich. The peg over to Powell, and the side is out. 4-3 to play, but Oakland comes up to the first run of the afternoon on no hit. No errors. There were 4 walks, 1 intentional, and 3 left on. Our score is Oakland 1, Baltimore nothing at the end of 4.5 innings.
Having a look at Cuellar's counterpart on the mound today, James Augustus Catfish Hunter. He was tagged by his parents after he ran away from home and returned with 2 catfish, and that name has hung on since he was a young boy down in Hertford, North Carolina. Big Jim has been one of the most consistent pitchers in baseball over the past 7 years. He started with Oakland in 1968, and in his initial season in the Oakland stable, after the club moved from Kansas City, he came up to the majors in 65. Then Kansas City moved to Oakland, California in 68. And from that point on, he became a double-digit winner. He won 13, 13, 12, 18, 21, 21, 21, and this year 25. His major league record is 161 victories and 113 losses. And he has been a workhorse pitcher. To give you an idea, This year, he worked almost 300 innings. Last year, 256. The year before that, 295. And in 1971, he worked 274 innings.
From Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, this is Herb Carneal of the Minnesota Twins, along with Jerry Holtzman of the Chicago Sun-Times, and columnist also for the Sporting News. And right now, Jerry, I think it's about time for you to level with us. What's the difference between writing and announcing?
Well, there's quite a bit of difference when you're writing a game and just, covering a game for a newspaper and announcing it. When you're a sports writer, you can get a hot dog and miss a pitch or two. But when you're announcing a game, you got to watch every pitch. So, these people are certainly more alert than we are in many ways. But of course, if you make a mistake, it's on the air and it's gone. If we make a mistake, they send it to us a month later.
That's very generous of you. I hope my boss is listening in. There's Boog Powell up, and a strike gets called to him. 0-1. Boog hit a hard ground smash to Dick Green at second, but he started a double play after a leadoff single by Davis in the fourth inning.
I think Boog Powell is a good example of what you're talking about before, about when is a player finished. Obviously, Boog Powell isn't finished, although some people thought so earlier this season.
There's a foul, right straight back. 0-2. Boog contributed many a key hit.
He's a great off-season fisherman. He lives down in Miami. Spends most of the winter on his boat down there. He's one of the most gentle people I've met in the big leagues. Like most big men.
Like Howard.
He's a very gentle guy.
And the pitch outside the ball. 1-2.
In fact, it's kind of interesting. I was here the other night and I saw a big black Cadillac with the license plate spelled out Boog. I asked him the next day if that was his car, and he said, no. He said, some dentist in town he thinks drives that car around. He's never even met him.
Pitch is low for the ball, and it's 2-2.
He said, I wouldn't advertise myself. He says, I wouldn't, have a license plate with the word Boog on it, but somebody else has, obviously.
That is a remarkable facial resemblance to Jack Nicklaus, the golfer. High foul. Down below, and it's still 2-2 to Boog Powell.
You could have gone for that one, Herb. Just dive right over the booth here.
Either get a basket or a fish net.
Well, Harry Carey in Chicago, has a basket. Draws a lot of attention. They crowd oohs and ahs.
He never misses.
No, he doesn't. He's got good hands.
Here's the pitch on the way to Powell, and it's swung on. Right field, right at Washington. Oh, boy, did he squash that ball. It was a line drive hit right at the right fielder, Washington. There's one of those. I don't think he can hit a ball any harder than that.
That and the one Etchebarren hit yesterday are just about the only two balls hit solid by the Orioles here in Baltimore.
Right, Etchebarren hit his to the deepest corner of the park, almost to the 410 sign. Ball to right, but right, that's Cordell Washington. There's Don Baylor. He flied out to Bill North, the center fielder, first trip up, and a high foul coming back out of play. One strike to Baylor. Oakland is leading 1-0. Last of the fifth inning. Oakland leading in the series 2-1. If Oakland wins today, the American League Championship Series is over, and Oakland would represent the league in the World Series. The pitch, high ball. Oakland really has been an amazing club. In 1972, they won the championship series 3-2 from the Tigers, went on to beat the Reds 4-3 in the series. Last year, they beat Baltimore 3-2 in the championship series and beat the Mets 4-3 in the World Series. Foul back out of play by Baylor, 1-2.
It'd be an amazing thing, though, if they won this game on a walk with the bases loaded. That's about the most embarrassing way a ball club can lose a game is to walk in the winning run. Especially for a pitcher like Cuellar.
Oakland has not had a base hit in the game. Baltimore's had only 2 off Hunter. Swing and a miss. A fastball. Don Baylor went after it, nipping for the third strikeout. Chalked up by Hunter. Now Brooks Robinson. He hit a ball fairly hard in the third inning to deep right center, but it was no trouble for Cordell Washington. 2 out and nobody on. Remember, Baltimore has not scored since the 5th inning of the opening game at Oakland Saturday. Ball low outside. They got 4 runs in that 5th inning against Hunter. That ended Baltimore scoring for the day, and they won the game 6-3. Holtzman shut them out Sunday, blew yesterday, and they have not scored against Hunter so far today. There's a strike, a fastball on the outside corner, 1-1.
Brooks Robinson has a new book out called Third Base is My Home. And he and Blaze Starr, the striptease artist from Baltimore, are the two Baltimore authors, big authors this year. Blaze Starr has a book out, too. They're both
going outside, 2-1.
Brooks and Blaze are both Baltimore institutions.
Well, that's certainly an appropriate title for Mr. Robinson.
Yes, Third Base is My Home.
Here's a foul, back out of play. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Brooks Robinson's a lot like Ernie Banks, you know. He's really a great favorite in his hometown. Ernie Banks for the Cubs.
Brooks really an outstanding gentleman. Here's the pitch to him. Swing, and he chops one foul off to the left. Off
and, of course, you have one up in Minnesota in Harmon Killebrew. Mr. Nice Guy, all three of them. Ernie Banks, Brooks Robinson, Harmon Killebrew. I've got to commend your manager, Herb, Frank Quillisi. He finished ahead of the White Sox, but what certainly seemed to be a very inferior team.
That's right. We had a very young club at Minnesota this year. Robinson hits the fly ball out to right field, fairly deep. Back goes Washington, and he makes the catch on the track in right field. 2 long fly balls, and Robinson has hit the Claudel Washington. 3 up and 3 down. The score now at the end of 5 innings here at Baltimore is the A's 1, Orioles nothing.
Jim Catfish Hunter continues to mow him down, and the odds have to be with the Oakland Athletics today, not only from the fact that they are leading in the ballgame 1-0, but as was pointed out by Herb Carneal at the outset of the broadcast, it is very, very rare indeed where Jim Catfish Hunter pitches 2 bad games back. At the outset of the broadcast, it is very, very rare indeed where Jim Catfish Hunter pitches 2 bad games back-to-back. And he is proving that old adage again, that he is consistent, because in his last start he was homered out of the ball game by the Orioles in the opener when Cuellar beat him 6-3. The Orioles banged 4 home runs in that ball game. And Catfish admitted he didn't have it that day, but he told reporters he'd have it when he went to the mound in Baltimore. And thus far today, he has been the pitcher of perfection that he has been for the last 4 or 5 years for the Oakland Athletics. Hunter received a reported $75,000 bonus to sign with the Kansas City Athletics, now the Oakland Athletics, back in 1964. They shipped him out to Daytona Beach in the Florida State League. He made his first appearance with Kansas City in '65, and in his first year was 9-11.
And a very warm welcome to more stations on our worldwide network for this championship series in the American League. KIAK in Fairbanks, Alaska, KHYT in Tucson, Arizona, and WSTU in Stewart, Florida.
I guess we should point out, Herb, that Charlie Finley has a new mascot this year. He's always had that Missouri Mule. This year he has Miss California, who was the runner-up in the Miss America contest as the A's mascot. I guess she's sailing with the ball club. And Jerry Hoffberger, the owner of the Baltimore Orioles, was asked before the game. Somebody said, "Well, why don't you get Miss Maryland and have her as your mascot?" And Mr. Hoffberger said, "Jesus, if I do that, my wife will make me sell the team."
You think Mr. Finley's taste is improving?
Oh, definitely.
Here's the first pitch, and a blow outside to Ray Fosse.
He carried that mule everywhere, including into the press room, the hospitality room, and the mule used to stick his nose in everybody's soup.
Here's the pitch. He's swinging a high foul off to the right. Let's see if Hendricks will have room. And he makes the catch right at the box seat railing, off to the right on the first base side. Fosse fouls the old Ron Hendricks. 1 away. Now to bring up Dick Green, who has walked and hit back to the pitcher.
That's one thing about this ballpark. The fences here are very short down the line, but in a sense, it's still a pitcher's ballpark because there's good foul territory for a catcher to catch a foul tip.
Just like in Oakland.
Right. That's a very important thing that most fans don't realize, is that the area behind the plate, that can be very important to a pitcher. He can get 2 or 3 outs a game right back there.
Gives him more chances for a few more putouts. Balls that normally wouldn't be caught would go in the stands, are catchable here, and also in Oakland. I think they even have more room in Oakland than they do here. Pitch outside to Dick Green for a ball. Ross Grimsley delivers. Slow fastball, ball 2.
How do you like Ross Grimsley's hairdo?
Very full.
Yeah, it's kind of a curly Prince Valiant, isn't it?
Yep. He's riding style, I guess.
Yeah, my boy's got the same hairdo. My son.
Here's the pitch. Swing, ground ball to short. Langer up with it. Takes the foul for the out. 6-3 to play. Against Dick Green, 2 down. Nobody on. It'll bring up Campaneris, who's grounded to short. Get into a short to second force. And he's slide to right. Oakland leading 1-0 in the top of the 6th inning. Although they have not had a hit in the game. Campaneris, the road runner, as they call him on the Oakland Ball Club. Fastball strike. Nothing in one. For a fellow who runs as hard as he does to first base, he can stop, I think, quicker than anybody I've ever seen. Swing and a miss. Went for a low outside pitch. 0-2. Oakland scoring in the 5th inning with 2 outs on 4 consecutive walks. Grimsley shaking off Hendricks. Now winds and delivers. A high, wide fastball. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
You know, one of the interesting things that's occurred in the playoffs is that Don Sutton, when he beat the Pirates in the first game in Pittsburgh, indicated and said very strongly that he calls his own game. He doesn't let the catcher call the game for him. And yesterday, Vida Blue indicated the same thing, that he calls at least half his own pitches.
There's a swing and a miss. Ball down the way. Campaneris struck out. Grimsley looking sharp in relief. He pitched well this year against Oakland in the regular season. 3 up, 3 down. The score now at the end of 5 1/2 is the A's 1, the Orioles nothing.
Well, George Foreman says that if he keeps his world heavyweight title in his upcoming bout with Muhammad Ali, he will consider fighting anywhere in the world, providing he gets a good deal. Foreman was asked if he would fight again outside the United States after his October 30th title bout with Ali in Kinshasa, which is October 29th United States time. Said Foreman, well, let's put it like this. I won the title in Kingston, Jamaica. My title defenses have been in Tokyo and Caracas, plus this one in Zaire. I'm a world champion, and as long as I continue to be world heavyweight champion, I will consider fighting anywhere in the world. It's all a matter of where the right business deal is made. Foreman and Ali will each receive a reported $5 million for this fight, an all-time record for any sports payday. Foreman was asked today by reporters after a slight workout in Kinshasa if he considered making an investment in Zaire for his 2-year-old daughter. He said, yeah, I think I'm going to buy her a pet lion. Now let's get back to Herb Carneal and Jerry Holtzman at Baltimore.
Jerry, you've covered games in the National League as well as the American. Of course, they don't have the designated hitter rule in the National League. How do you feel about it?
Well, I feel I'm against the DH. I think that the game is better without it. I like to see the pitcher hit for himself, even though he might strike out or just ground out. I think that the DH upsets the very delicate balance of the game, you know, the offensive and defensive balance. And I'm afraid that what might happen is that in another year or two, you might have a DH for the shortstop. I'd hate to see that. You know, I don't like to see perfection. I don't think that we have to have, two-platoon baseball where everybody does his job perfectly. I think that perfection can be quite boring.
Okay, here's Hendricks taking a strike on the inside corner. And we were talking yesterday about what might happen with Tommy Davis, who has done nothing but be the DH all year for Baltimore if they won this series here and got in the World Series. But they can't use the designated hitter. Foul by Hendricks.
Well, I think that the rule definitely will hurt the American League because they're accustomed to their DH, and Reggie Jackson, of course, might not be able to play. That bad leg, he can DH it, but just questionable as to how well he can play in the field.
Right. Here's Hunter's 2-strike pitch. Blowing outside a ball. Hendricks stands in the 3rd inning. He'll be followed here by Belanger and Coggins. Oakland leading 1-0 in the last half of the 6th inning. Oakland leading in the series 2 games to 1. Lined up by Hunter and the pitch on away. And it's a sinker low. 2 balls and 2 strikes to count. This is Herb Carneal of the Minnesota Twins. With us today, the well-known sports columnist of the Chicago Sun-Times, Jerry Holtzman. Pitch is low for the ball, and it's 3-2 now to Hendricks.
It's kind of funny, isn't it, Herb, that here he is. I mean, here's Hunter, a very good control pitcher, down at the bottom end of the order again.
Yeah.
And having trouble with the hitters, just having trouble getting ahead of the count.
Payoff pitch to Hendricks is swung on a high foul. It's going to be out of play. The count's still 3-2. The only man Hunter has walked. Belanger, the 9th man in the order. He walked him in the 3rd inning, but with 2 outs, and it didn't do any harm. Hunter today has struck out 3 batters. And the pitch. It is high and wide. He walks Hendricks. Hunter has given up his 2nd walk of the game. Looks like like to me he just tried to get something extra on that fastball and got away from it.
That's right.
So Hendricks walked. That is very odd that the two walks off Hunter, one to the number 8 batter, or the other to the number 9 batter for Baltimore. Here's Belanger, who walked in the third inning. If he doesn't bunt here, it'll surprise a lot of people.
Well, he's going to have to bunt here, and of course, he's a very good punter. He's an extremely good punter.
Now, we'll see what happens as Bando comes up on the grass. Belanger had a good sacrifice bunt against this club on Saturday. He has not had a hit in the series. He's 0 for 9. Slender right-handed batter. Hunter into the stretch. And the pitch. Ball is punted back to Hunter. He'll throw to first base. Out. Hendricks to second. Hunter to Green, the second baseman, covering on the sacrifice. That'll bring up Rich Coggin.
I'd like to say something about that play. Now, Hunter really had to play at second base. He could have very easily gotten Hendricks at second base if he had thrown to that base. And this is a mistake that most pitchers make. They take the easy out at first base and very often pass up second base. I just don't know why they do it, but there just aren't too many pitchers that make the throw to second base. And ordinarily, when you throw to second base, you're going to get the man.
Belanger got a little more wood on that ball than he would have liked, and it got back out there pretty quickly. But as you say, Jerry, I think Hunter was occupied with the thought of getting the safe out. He didn't want to take any chance on throwing down to second base. Coggins up, little left-handed batter. Takes high fastball, ball one. Coggins is slide to center and slide to right.
The only thing is, by taking the safe out in that situation, Hunter's in quite a bit of trouble right now.
Tying on that second for Baltimore. With one out. They trail 1-0 in the sixth. Hunter to the stretch, the pitch. Swing and a foul ball. Off to the right. Here comes Hunter up, and he catches the ball. The catcher, Fossey, never saw it. The ball was hit behind the plate and to the right, and the catcher, Fossey, did not see it. And Hunter, the pitcher, had to run up and make the catch in foul ground.
You could go all year and not see that play.
Boy, it's one you won't see very often, but Hunter very alert on the play. The ball was hit just off to the right of the plate, and Fossey, the catcher, never saw it. Now here comes Wes Stock, the pitching coach of the Oakland clubhouse. Paul Blair's up. Blair's given Hunter trouble in this series. It's that home run often, has a single today. Stock is out there talking to his battery mates right now, along with team captain Sal Bando.
Blair's a very good fastball hitter, and he can time that fastball and pull it to left field. In fact, I was surprised yesterday that Vida Blue was able to handle Blair so easily, because Blair usually hits good fast. He hits the good fastball pitching.
Against Hunter in the series, Blair is 3 for 5. He has 2 singles and a homer. He struck out in the first inning today and then singled sharply through the hole to left in the fourth inning. 2 down with Hendricks on second. We're in the last of the 6th inning here at Baltimore. Oakland leading 1-0. The pitch to Blair is a ball outside. The first time Baltimore has put a runner on second base since the 9th inning Sunday. Blair takes off the outside corner. Looks like a slider. 2 balls and no strikes to count. Hunter working carefully to Paul Blair. But Bobby Grich, the on-deck man now for the Orioles. Swing ground ball hit the short. Campaneris up with it. The peg to Tennessee is out and the side's retired. 6-3 the play, short to first. For Baltimore, no run, no hits. No Oakland errors, 1 left. The score at the end of 6 complete innings, the Oakland A's 1, the Baltimore Orioles 0.
Well, Maury Wills, who is working the ball game on the NBC television side today, along with Jim Simpson, just remarked in the press booth at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore that in his 22 years in organized baseball, 20 years as a player and 2 as a broadcaster for NBC, he has never seen a pitcher, either in the minors or the majors, come racing behind home plate to catch a foul pop-up off the bat of an opposing batsman. And that is unusual to see, but it was apparent that Fossey was in trouble. He went left, and the ball was straight up, and Fossey was groping all over the place looking for the ball. And as Herb Carneal pointed at the outset, it's a high sky, there are no clouds, and it's pretty tough to pick up the ball in the glaring sunlight. But Jim Catfish Hunter, the old hustler, he knew what he was doing. He came running in and waved the first baseman off and took the ball some 25 feet behind home plate, just off on the first base side, and then whirled and held the runner at second base. So he helped himself out of what could have been a serious jam in that inning.
Well, at the end of the sixth here at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, it's Oakland 1 run, no hits, no errors. Baltimore no runs, just 2 hits and 1 error. Bill Norris, the batter.
Herb, I'm glad that this broadcast is being picked up in Honolulu. I used to write for the Honolulu Star Bulletin years ago when Louis Leung Hopp was the sports editor. Used to write a column on Marine Corps sports in Honolulu. Joe Anzavino was there.
They've got a lot of veteran ex-Major League players playing out there.
Yes. Well, of course, that's the home of Herman Wiedemeyer, who was, a major leaguer. Whenever Wiedemeyer played, if he got a single, the paper out there with the Star Bulletin would say, Wiedemeyer singles as Reds win.
Hometown product. Billy Norris, batting right-handed, is grounded out twice to Robinson at third and once to Belanger at short. Ross Grimsley, the left-hander, on the mound now for the Orioles. Fires a high, wide fastball. 1-0 to Norris with Bando on deck and Jackson to follow.
Norris is a college graduate. I think he has a degree in psychology. He's been teaching.
Grimsley delivers high and wide. Ball 2-0. And now Norris checks with Bobby Winkle. Right now, the shadows of the stands crept out right along the edge of the third base foul line. Fastball strike on the outside corner, 2-1.
Maybe someday, Herb, I'll tell you about the time that a Cub pitcher hypnotized me during spring training. He had me go into my room and put me on the couch and he had me watch a spot on the ceiling and then proceeded to hypnotize me.
There's a fly ball to center field. It's back deep, but Blair goes back. He's under it now and waiting. Blair makes the catch. One away. This worldwide coverage of championship baseball is a production of the Robert Wool Company. Now let's pause 10 seconds for station identification. You're listening to the Mutual Broadcasting System's American League Championship Network.
This is the American Forces Radio and Television Service.
This is the Southern Command Radio Network, an affiliate of the American Forces Radio and Television Service.
Fastball outside to Bando. Sal has walked twice in the first and the fifth inning and bounced to the pitcher in the third. Bando again, trouble for Baltimore. He has scored the only run of the game today. He squibs the foul to the right, and it's 1-1. Bando walked in the fifth inning with 2 outs. And the next 3 batters also walked, forcing in Bando with the game's only run. Yesterday, he hit a home run in the 4th inning for the only run of the game. High outside from Ross Grimsley. 2 balls and 1 strike. Oakland leading 1-0 in the first half of the 7th inning. Mike Cuellar walked 9 batters while he was in there, 4 2/3 innings. Grimsley pumps and throws. Outside of all, and now it's 3-1 to Bando with Jackson on deck.
This could be the inning. The A's are going to tear it open. This is the spot for him.
1 out, nobody on. Here's the windup by Grimsley. And Bando steps out on him. Only once today has Oakland put a man on base with less than 2 out, and that was in the 4th inning when a man got on an error with 1 out, but that didn't do any damage to Baltimore. There's a fastball in for a strike, and it's 3-2. Full count to Bando. Oakland has left 9 men on base so far. Right now, Bando with a 3-ball, 2-strike count. Baltimore playing him a bit towards left. As Grimsley, the left-hander, delivers. Swing foul out of play, and it's still 3-2. If there should be a 5th game tomorrow, we'll be on the air on most of these same stations at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. The probables tomorrow: Ken Holtzman for Oakland, Dave McNally for Baltimore. Here's the pitch. High outside. Bando walks. That is the 10th walk this afternoon for Oakland off Baltimore pitching. And it'll bring up Reggie Jackson. He's walked 3 times today in the 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th inning. Oakland ahead 1-0. If they win today, the American League Championship Series is all over. Meantime, at Dodger Stadium, in the bottom of the 2nd inning, the Dodgers are leading Pittsburgh 1-0. Davey Lopes got a base on balls. Lopes stole second and scored on a 2-bagger by Jim Wynn. Jackson hits a drive into left field, way back at the wall, and it is off the wall. Taylor leaped but couldn't get it. Here is Bando being waved in. The throw will not be in time. And it is 2-0 Oakland, a double off the left field wall for Reggie Jackson. An opposite field double. He hit the ball off the high part of the wall, which they have in the right and left field corners. It's 14 feet high. And Jackson hit the ball to the opposite field, a little over halfway up on the wall. Taylor leaped up, but he couldn't get it. So Jackson, with a double, has scored Bando and put Oakland ahead 2-0, and that is the first hit in the game for the Oakland A's. Jackson's second hit had 12 at-bats in the series. And upsets Joe Rudy.
I think Baylor played that ball very well. He went right back to the wall, which is what you should do, and then timed his jump. The mistake that most young players make is that they try to drift back with the ball. When you're playing a long drive like that, the thing to do is to go to the wall first, and then you can come in on it if you have to. Baylor came within about 2 feet of catching that ball.
He caught, actually, the ball that Bando hit yesterday. It might have gone out of the park, but Baylor, big and tall, reached up and caught it. This might, we're going to get a pinch runner, I guess, for Reggie Jackson.
Is that Herb Washington?
No, I believe this was Johnny Odom. Reggie Jackson coming out. And it looks like John Odom going in to run for him. He's a pitcher, and it'll be Joe Rudy at the plate.
Running for Reggie Jackson, number 5, John Odom.
That's one of my few pet peeves, Herb. I don't like to see a pitcher used as a pinch runner, regardless of how fast he is. Too many things can happen in the bases. He can get hurt. And also, a pitcher isn't in the ball game that much, and very often he just can't pick up the pace of the game that quickly.
Well, now they're going to put Joe Rudy on. He'll get the intentional walk. This will be his second intentional walk. He's got one back in the fifth inning, and it backfired. Actually, Bando and Jackson have done on first and second with 2 out, and Cuellar wild pitched them over to second and third on the first pitch to Rudy, and then they decided to walk Joe. But Cuellar couldn't get the ball over to Gene Tennis, walked him, and forced in the run. Now we have it on first and second, one out, and Gene Tennis up again. He has fouled to Brooks Robinson, struck out, and walked. 2-0, the Oakland A's, baseball's world champions, leading here in the top of the 7th inning. They have 2 runs on 1 hit, and they have 11 bases on balls.
Tennis hasn't hit a fair ball today.
So it's Odom on second. Rudy on first with 1 out. Baltimore looking for a double play ball in the infield right now. The outfield is towards left. The left-hander Grimsley into the stretch. Here's the pitch on the way, and a breaking ball down low, and he checked his swing. Ball 1.
Grimsley has a pretty good sinker, and I'm sure he'll try to get him to hit the ball on the ground in this spot.
Swing and a miss. Gets the ball away from him. 1 ball and 1 strike. We mentioned earlier, Tennis likes the ball around the waist or higher. 1 ball and 1 strike. Elrod Hendricks giving the sign. There's that target down low. It's just strike. On the knees, and it's 1 and 2 now to Tennis. Cordell Washington on deck. This is a guy, of course, Baltimore wants to get out of there. Double play or not. And they'll have the left-handed batting Washington coming up. There's a line drive, and it's fouled, like quite a bit down the left field line. Count remains 1 and 2.
That certainly was a great deal for Baltimore, getting Grimsley for Rettenman. But you never know. You never know what's going to happen next year.
Takes a while sometimes.
That's right. It can turn around next year.
No doubt that Grimsley helped Baltimore. He won 18 games.
That's right.
Now the strike. Swing foul upstairs on the first base side.
You can't judge a deal too quickly. The Cubs traded Ferguson Jenkins to Texas, and I think he won 24, 25 games there, and yet the Cubs got some very good young ball players for Jenkins. They got Bill Madlock, who was one of the leading hitters in the National League as a rookie. He's going to get better. They got Vic Harris. So you never know. It could be a very good deal for the Cubs in another year or two.
The end of 2 now at Dodger Stadium. The Dodgers 1, the Pirates nothing. There's a ground ball hammered out to Belanger. The Grits for 1. The foul for 2. Double play. 6-4-3 double play. That's what Baltimore wanted. 1 run, 1 hit. No errors and 1 left. score, Oakland 2, Baltimore nothing at the end of 6.5 innings.
We'll have a look at what's going on in the game between the Dodgers and the Pittsburgh Pirates in their pivotal game. It's a do or die for the Pirates again today. If they win, they tie the series and extend it to 5. If the Dodgers win, they finish it off and will be the National League representative in the World Series that starts Saturday. The World Series will start in Los Angeles or Pittsburgh, determining who wins that playoff set. And it will be this Saturday, October the 12th. You know, the Dodgers, leading 1-0 at the end of one inning of play today, have gotten some superlative pitching from Don Sutton at times this year, but he also had a strange sequence of events. He was a great pitcher over the last 17 starts for the Dodgers toward the end of the season. He won 14 of those, but he had a stretch during the middle of the summer where he did not win a game for 2 months. So the Dodgers finished the year with 102 victories. If Sutton had finished with a 20-win-plus record, the Dodgers probably would have come very close to or surpassed the Major League record for victories. It was possible. They had that great a year.
2-0, Oakland leading now, and Baltimore has not scored in this series for 28 consecutive innings. Bobby Grich will lead it off with Davis and Powell to follow. Catfish Hunter, who had 6 shutouts among his 25 wins during the regular season. Bobby Grich is popped to third and fly to right. Last of the 7th inning. Oakland leads in the series 2-1. Here's the windup by Hunter, the pitch. Swing, he popped it up. Right side of the infield. He's going to get it 10 at the green. Green up on the infield grass makes the catch. Pitch went out as Grich pops up to second baseman Dick Green, and now Tommy Davis, who has one of 2 Baltimore hits. Davis is single up the middle, grounded out to short. Hunter has walked 2 batters today. He has struck out 3. And a bluff bunt by Davis, who doesn't bunt very often. He took the pitch for a strike, 0-1. Baltimore's Memorial Stadium. Jerry Holtzman of the Chicago Sun-Times and the Sporting News. Yours truly, Herb Carneal, and here's the windup by Hunter. The pitch on the way to Davis. Taking you right.
This is the time of the game when you start counting how many outs there are to go. It's just the opposite. You count from the back end forward now. He's got 8 outs to go. Hunter, that is.
Davis fouls one off, back out of play, and it's still 2 strikes to Tommy Davis with Boog Powell on deck. A game like this, of course, that second run always seems so big when you got a fellow pitching the way Hunter's pitching out there. You figure that he does give up his share of homers, although I think sometimes that's overrated, but...
Well, he usually keeps a lot of men off base. He doesn't have 20 men on base.
That's right. There was a foul, still on 2. Just the point I was going to make, that when somebody for Baltimore might hit one out, but still chances are there's nobody on base, so that they've got a 2-0 lead right now.
The secret of pitching is throwing strikes. You have to let them hit the ball. Just don't put them on. And of course, Cuellar walked 9 men today. Almost 10.
Here's a drive high in the air to right center field. Washington back under it. And he has no trouble with it. So there were 2 gone. Davis flies to the right field of Claudell Washington, and next will be Boog Powell. Powell hit into a 4-6-3 double play in the second and lined out to the right field of Washington in the 5th inning. He's hit the ball hard twice today, but has 0 for 2. Raleigh Fingers beginning to loosen up a little bit out in the Oakland bullpen. It's something, isn't it? The Fingers has only been in relief once in the series, and that was on Saturday when they were behind. Oakland was 6-2 when he came in the game. They just gave him a little work. It's the only time he's been needed. Powell hits one on the ground behind first base. Fair ball. Tennis close to Hunter, and they get Powell. 3-1 to play, and Baltimore down 1-2-3 in the 7th. The score at the end of 7 complete. The world champion Oakland A's 2, the Baltimore Orioles nothing.
Getting back to the Dodgers, who could very well be the Oakland Athletics opponent in the World Series, the way things stand right now in both these division championship playoffs. The Dodgers won 102 games the past regular season. That matched the most wins ever by a National League team in divisional play, and it is the biggest win total by a Dodger team in 12 years. And yet the champagne corks didn't pop until the next to the last game of the season. The Dodgers won the National League West despite the fact that they lost their leading pitcher and the league's top winner, Tommy John, the fine lefty, who was sent to the sidelines in mid-July with a 13-3 record. So there's another pitcher that if the Dodgers had healthy, who knows, the Dodgers might have surpassed 120 victories this year in the win column. Don Sutton, as we said, had that weird stretch where he went 14 starts in a 2-month period without a victory, had an 0-6 record from May 19th through July 20th, and that incidentally tied a Dodger record for consecutive losses, and then he turned around, and in 14 of his final 17 starts, he won 13 ball games. It was that kind of a year for Dodger pitchers.
Oakland leading 2-0 at the end of 7 complete. Ross Grimsley on the mound for Baltimore will be pitching to Cordell Washington, Ray Fosse, and Dick Green. Cordell Washington has bounced the foul, reached on a throwing error by Mark Belanger, and grounded out to second base with Bobby Gretsch. Oakland, 2 runs, 1 hit, no errors. The Orioles, no runs, 2 hits, and 1 error.
You were saying earlier in the broadcast, Alvin Dark hasn't been signed for next year, and there's some speculation that he might not come back even if the A's win the series. And I kind of think that could be true, that Alvin might figure that 1 year at Oakland was enough. Alvin's kind of in a tough spot because if he wins or loses, he really doesn't win much because they'll say, well, Dick Williams could have won with his club too. But I think, Alvin has done a remarkably good job. Handling this ball club.
Things do change from year to year. Oakland has won the World Series 2 years in a row now. Norris runs up on the ball and bunts it back to Grimsley. They'll throw to first base, and he's out. He almost hit Washington with a throw. Good grab there by Booth Powell. Boy, that Washington and North both can get down that line in a hurry. Especially when North is batting left-handed. Washington batting left-handed all the time. Washington trying to bunt his way on his out pitch to the first. Grimsley almost hit him with a throw. Powell picked it right off him.
That was a terrific play by the pitcher. Outstanding play.
Here's Ray Fosse, the catcher, right-handed batter. Takes a strike. He struck out, grounded to short, fouled out to the catcher, Hendricks. And the pitch on the way. Outside a ball. 1 ball, 1 strike. Oakland leading 2-0, first half of the 8th inning with 1 out and nobody on. Dick Green due up next. Swing and a miss. 1 for 1 down low that time. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Fosse. The left side of the infield now along the third baseline, about halfway out to the pitching mound, is being covered in the shadows of the stands, but the rest of the field still in very bright sunlight. Grimsley delivers. Swing and a miss. Sinking fastball down and away from Fosse, and he strikes out. Still going on, here's Dick Green. He's walked, bounced to the pitcher, and grounded to short.
Dick Green.
More stations we'd like to greet on our network. KLPM of Minot, North Dakota, which is on our Minnesota Twins baseball network during the regular season. WSOQ from Syracuse, New York. WPAM, Pottsville, Pennsylvania. Green swings and he misses. 1 strike to count. He swung so hard his batting helmet flew off. 2-0. Oakland leading in the top of the 8th. If they win, it's all over. The A's leading in the series, 2 games to 1. And the pitch is outside. 1 ball, 1 strike. Oakland scored in the 5th on 4 walks in a row with 2 outs. And in the 7th, on a walk to Vandor, a double by Jackson off the left field wall. Here's a fly ball hit into left field. It's carrying deep. Baylor back at the fence, and he makes the catch just as he bumps into the left field fence. Green pulled the ball sharply and flies against the fence to Baylor. 3 up and 3 down. So the score at the end of 7.5 innings of play. The Oakland A's 2, the Baltimore Orioles 0.
Well, the Dodger-Pirate game is moving along now. The Dodgers are hitting in the home third at Dodger Stadium and still lead by a score of 1-0. The run coming in the first inning. It's Royce pitching for Pittsburgh and Don Sutton working for the National League West champions. And if the Dodgers win today, they will be the National League representative starting Saturday, and they will be the host for the first 2 games if that lead stands up. Getting back to the Dodger pitching, Andy Messersmith became the 14th man in history to win 20 games in both the American and National Leagues this season, and his 20th victory of the campaign assured the Dodgers of at least a tie in the National League West. And a Dodger pitcher who maintains he didn't care about records, Mike Marshall, literally rewrote the record book as far as relief pitchers is concerned. Mike set the major league record For consecutive appearances, 13. Most appearances, 106 games. Most innings pitched in relief, 208.1. And he had the most games finished, a major league record, 83 games that he mopped up and finished off.
Well, Jerry, the clock's ticking off here, as you were pointing out a while ago. Now only 6 outs left for Baltimore and for Catfish Hunter, depending on which side of the bench you're on. Don Baylor has flied to center and struck out. He leads it off. Big right-handed batter. Takes outside a ball.
The 8th inning is always a very key inning for the team that is losing the ball game, for the home team when it's losing, because if they can go ahead in this inning, then suddenly they are 3 outs within victory. All of a sudden, it's 3 outs and the ball game is over.
Question, give it a change. Pitches outside, ball 2. Don Baylor hit 272 during the regular season, but he hit 391 from September the 2nd to the end of this year. Second year in a row, he's really finished strong. Takes a strike in the outside corner, 2-1. Catfish Hunter's given up just a couple of singles. He's walked 2, and he has struck out 3. Swing and a miss. 2 balls, 2 strikes. The pay to tennis today, a little less than yesterday, 28,136. 28,136 the pay to tennis. 2 games here drew over 60,000, over 83,000 in Oakland. Swing and a foul by Baylor. 2 balls and 2 strikes to count.
Catfish Hunter is really threading the needle out there, so to speak. He very seldom throws the ball over the middle of the plate.
Oh, great command of his pitches. Swing and a foul back by Baylor, and still 2 balls and 2 strikes. Oakland leading 2-0, last half of the 8th inning.
One of the surprising things about this game is that Hunter really isn't a fastball pitcher, and yet the Orioles haven't been able to pull the ball against him.
He's keeping that ball away from a lot of the Baltimore batters. Swing another foul. Still 2-2. Don rides along at 2-2 to Don Baylor as Baltimore desperately trying to get something going here. Pitching. Here's the pitch from Hunter. And it's high outside the ball. 3-2 now. Last Sunday, only once did Baltimore get a runner as far as second. Didn't get any as far as second yesterday, and just 1 so far today. Baylor hits a line drive off the glove of Campanella. The ball goes into left center field, and Baylor's on. The start for Baltimore in the 8th inning as Baylor ripped a line drive. Campaneris leaped high, but he could not hold the ball, and it'll be a base hit. And now Alvin Dark is coming out to talk to Hunter. It's interesting to note that Baltimore has had 5 runners on today, and actually 4 have been leadoff batters. All of the 3 hits today have been by leadoff men. Davis in the 2nd, Blair in the 4th, and now Baylor here in the 8th inning.
And, of course, just the opposite has been true with the Oakland Ball Club. They've done all their damage after 1 and 2 outs. Well, this is Fingers coming in now. I thought that Campaneris jumped a little bit too soon on that ball. If he had just waited a split second sooner, I think he might have had it.
Well, Alvin Dark, Jerry, I said he's going to go to his bullpen. He hasn't used Fingers but once in the series. And that time it really didn't mean anything. He threw only 89 pitches while he was in there, pitching 7 complete innings into 1 batter here in the 8th. And Raleigh Fingers with a good hard sinker and a good hard slider. Basically the sinker-slider type pitcher coming in. Raleigh Fingers. What a job he did out of the bullpen this year. He won 9, lost 5, had 18 saves, and an ERA of 2.65. Jerry, as I recall, you were instrumental in starting the save rule in baseball.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I've been credited somewhat with starting with having saves as the official statistic. The Sporting News picked it up in about 1960 or 59, and I was the They worked out the original formula for pitching saves by relief pitchers. And the sport is just to give trophies every year to the top firemen in each league. They did this for about 8 or 9 years and still do it. But about 4 years ago, official baseball, so to speak, picked up the rule. And, of course, the save is now an official statistic. The relief pitchers are delighted with the statistic because suddenly it gives them more bargaining at the table when they sit down and talk salary. It's really made, it's also focused attention on relief pitching because now you know how many saves each man has. And, of course, this year, Mike Marshall of Los Angeles has had the most remarkable year of any relief pitcher, I think, in the history of baseball. He was in 106 games during the regular season.
Yet no relief pitcher's gotten a Cy Young Award.
Well, there was one. Jim Constanti won it, but nobody has.
Yeah, he has to save rule.
Right. Actually, it's unfortunate because Mike Marshall, I thought, should have won it last year in the National League.
Okay, here's Brooks Robinson. Twice he's hit the ball hard to the right fielder, Claudell Washington. Baltimore now has a tying run at the plate. They trail 2-0. Big Raleigh Fingers, the right-hander, close to first base. Baylor gets back. Hunter pitched 7 innings, 3 hits, 2 walks. He struck out 3. Oakland ahead 2-0 in the 8th. Here's the pitch. Swing and a miss. Foul ball. Off the bat down behind the plate. 1 strike to Brooks Robinson with Hendrick on deck. Fingers pitched a total of 119 innings, gave up 104 hits this year, walked only 29 batters, struck out 95 in 119 innings. Oakland playing for a double play. Robinson hits one up in the air to right field again, right at Claudell Washington, and he makes the catch. It's the 3rd time today that Robinson has flied to the right fielder. And there is Eldon Hendricks, the left-handed batting catcher. He struck out in the 3rd, walked in the 6th.
Oh, that was a key out for Fingers. Big out.
Now, Bando's had a word with Fingers. Gene Tennis came over from first to say something to him. Steve Garvey has hit a 2-run homer in the last of the 3rd for the Dodgers. Steve Garvey, a 2-run homer, and the Dodgers now leading Pittsburgh 3-0 in the last of the 3rd. Dodgers leading that series 2-1. Olsen leading here 2-0. Last of the 8th, 1 out. Baylor on first. Pitch to Hendricks. And he takes it outside the ball. 1-0 to Hendricks. Mark Belanger, right-handed batting shortstop for Baltimore, due up next. And the pitch. It is high ball, and it's 2-0 now to Hendricks. And Fonte goes out to talk to Raleigh Fingers.
This could be a spot, of course, where Weaver could go to his bench for a pinch batter. But I guess he figures, Hendricks has the lefty-righty advantage against Fingers.
Fingers pitched 1 inning last Saturday. Gave up 1 hit and had 1 strikeout in the inning. That was a game he came in with a score already 6-2 in favor of Baltimore in the 9th inning. Now 2-0 to Eldon Hendricks. Baylor on first, 1 out. Oakland ahead 2-0. Last half of the 8th inning. Here's the stretch. Swing and a foul, right straight back, and it's 2-1. So pinch hitters, Earl Weaver has Al Bumbry and Frank Baker, left-handed batter. Itzy wanted to go to a pinch hitter. Swing, another foul by Hendricks. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
It's an awfully big swing, isn't he?
Yeah, he's trying to tie it up.
Yes, he is.
Hendricks only had 159 at-bats in the regular season, 33 hits and 3 homers. Oakland playing him a bit towards right field. Now the stretch by Fingers. And the pitch is now low for the ball. So Fingers has run the string out on Hendricks. 3-2, and this is certainly going to be an important pitch coming up. Because if Hendricks gets on there, then Baltimore would have the tying run on base. He's there now and makes the catch at the edge of the track. Taylor tagging up, but going to second, and he's safe. He went in head first. Don Baylor took a gamble there, and he went into second after the catch made by Bill North back at the edge of the warning track in center field. And Baylor got into second with a head first slide. 2 down now. And Al Bumbry, a left-handed batter, is going to bat for Belanger. Right now, we'll pause 10 seconds for station identification. This game coming to you on the Mutual Broadcasting System's American League Championship Network. Left-handed batting, Al Bumbry. He had an outstanding year as a rookie player in the league last year, but he couldn't get on track this season. He was in just 94 games, batted .233.
That certainly was quite a gamble by Baylor on that last play. He wouldn't have done that if it was the 9th inning. And actually, his run doesn't mean that much. He's got to score 2 runs to tie. And if it was the 9th inning with 2 outs, he could have been doubled up and the game could have been over.
Second time today that Baltimore has put a man on second. Al Bumbry, native of Fredericksburg, Virginia. Stocky left-handed batter, takes finger strike on the inside corner. Bumbry, although he's only 5'8", plays 175, went to Virginia State on a basketball scholarship. Last year, as a rookie, he batted .337. This year, most of the teams that played this fellow a little closer in the infield and a little deeper in the outfield. He's pretty strong for his size. Swing and a miss. Fastball down and away from him. 2 strikes. Belanger didn't have an official at bat today. Mark had walked and hit a sacrifice punt. Baylor on second now, 2 out. We're in the bottom of the 8th inning, and it's Oakland 2, Baltimore nothing. This is Herb Carneal of the Minnesota Twins, along with Jerry Holtzman, sports columnist for the Chicago Sun-Times and the Sporting News. 2 strikes to Bumbry. He crowds the plate. Chokes the bat up now. His fingers delivered. And he missed with a fastball. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
You know, Fingers has one of the longest mustaches, if not the longest, in the major league.
The old handlebar type.
It might measure about 8 or 9 inches from stem to stern. He waxes it every day.
Al Bumbry at the plate. This fellow had 11 triples last year for Baltimore. But the outfield playing him a little deeper than they did last year. He swings and fouls one out to the left.
You know, the A's have been known as the mustache gang because they all grew mustaches a couple years ago. Charlie Finley gave each of his players $300 to grow a mustache. Some of them balked, but eventually most of them did it. I guess they're afraid they might be traded.
Situation got a little hairy over there.
Certainly did. Charlie grew one himself.
There's a swing and a high foul that's going to be out of play down the third base line. And it's still 1-2 to little Al Bumbry, batting for Mark Belanger. Oakland leading 2-0 in the last of the 8th inning. Baltimore has to win to make this series go 5 games to decide the winner. Al Bumbry was talking about him going to Virginia State on a basketball scholarship. He didn't play baseball in college until his senior year there. He started in pro ball in 1969 at Stockton, California. Big time for the ball. 2-2 the count. Through the Baltimore system, Aberdeen, South Dakota, Asheville, North Carolina, then Rochester, New York, and to the Orioles. He came up briefly in 72 and was with them all last year. Don Baylor on second, 2 out. Rollie Fingers, the big right-hander. Okay, it's a sign from Ray Posse. A swing and a miss. The fastball, and he struck Bumbry out to retire the side. No runs, 1 hit. No errors, and 1 left on. Well, will they score? Oakland 2, Baltimore nothing at the end of 8 innings. Let's all relax now with this message.
And the message is the Dodgers have extended their lead over the Los Angeles Dodgers the Dodgers have extended their lead over the Pirates by a score of 3-0. And the Pirates are now hitting in the visitors' 4th. And a home run by Garvey of the Dodgers into the right center field bleachers has boosted the lead from 1-0, the run they scored in the first inning. He slammed a 2-run homer in the bottom of the 3rd. And the Dodgers are moving closer and closer to a World Series date. The way it looks now, it's going to be an all-West Coast affair between the Dodgers and the Oakland Athletics if these leads hold up. And, of course, the Dodgers will match Oakland in just about every department if that matchup does occur, because the Dodgers, like Oakland, have good starting pitchers. They have, of course, Mike Marshall in the bullpen. That will easily match Roland Fingers and probably exceed him as far as the edge goes. But in hitting, the Dodgers collectively had a better year than Oakland, but Oakland also has big bats in the persons of Jackson, Bando, who had another fine year, Rudy, and, of course, Gene Tennis, who hit 26 home runs. It should be interesting.
Frank Baker will go to shortstop for Baltimore. Baker. Oakland 2 runs, 1 hit, and no errors. Orioles no runs, 3 hits, and 1 error. They go to the 9th inning. Leading off, top of the batting order for Oakland, Campaneris, North, and Bando. Campaneris has grounded out twice to short, once on a force, fly to right, and struck out. Left-hander Ross Grimsley on the mound for Baltimore, delivered. Swing and a miss. He took something off the pitch. He gave him a big motion. 1 strike to count.
Very unusual to see a ball game without Campaneris getting on base. He hasn't been on base today.
In the series, he's 3 for 16. He has not walked in the series. Takes a low curve from Grimsley, and it's 1-1. Cuellar gave up the first run without a hit in 4 2/3 innings. He walked 9. Grimsley's given up the other run. There's a bounding ball to the shortstop, Baker, and the take on the first base is just in time. Campaneris made it very close. Baker's throw just beat him. 1 gone, and here's Bill North. North twice has grounded to Robinson to third, once to Belanger at short, and last time flied to Blair in center. 2-0. The Oakland A's leading in the top of the 9th. Baltimore has right-hander Bob Reynolds, lefty Grant Jackson leading in the bullpen. At Los Angeles, in the bottom of the 4th inning with 1 out, the Dodgers are leading the Pirates 3-0. Steve Garvey has a 2-run homer in that game, and Jimmy Wynn drove in the other run with a double following a walk to Davey Lopes and then a stolen base. Low curve to North, 1 ball and no strikes.
Well, most playoffs could be ending today, couldn't they?
Right, see. Swing and a miss, 1-1. I know Oakland was saying if Pittsburgh had one today and tied it up, Oakland will stay here and to determine where they're going to go, either to Pittsburgh or to Los Angeles. Starter Jerry Royce is out now for the Pirates, and another left-hander, Ken Brett, has relieved him for Pittsburgh. Here's a bunt attempt and foul out to the right of the plate by North. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
You know, this has been a tough season for Jerry Royce. You know, the Pittsburgh Pirates have fined him $500 for having his wife on the road with him on 3 different occasions. They have a rule that wives can't travel on the road. And he has a grievance. He's filed a grievance with the Major League Players Association asking for his $500 back. And I'm sure he'll win that case.
Here's the pitch to North. Low outside. 2 balls in, 2 strikes to count. First half of the 9th inning here at Baltimore's Memorial Stadium. The world champion Oakland A's leading the Orioles 2-0. There's a fly ball hit into center field. It's fairly deep. Back goes Blair. He's there now. Blair makes the catch. What a fielder that fellow Blair is. Can make a lot of tough chances look awfully easy. He was back there waiting for that ball.
Yes, you know, there's so many good center fielders that Blair really hasn't gotten his due. He's one of the best center fielders in baseball and has been for 4 or 5 years. And yet his name is seldom mentioned nationally in regard to, you know, being one of the top center fielders. But the ball players have a lot of respect for him.
Very true. There's Bando hitting one up in here to center field. Blair backing off of this one, almost to the track, and he makes the catch. Long fly to center. 3 up and 3 down. So as we go to the last half of the 9th inning, the score here at Baltimore is the Oakland A's 2, the Baltimore Orioles nothing.
Well, updating the game again at Dodger Stadium. They are now in the bottom of the 4th inning, and the Dodgers still lead Pittsburgh by a score of 3-0. 1 run in the 1st inning and a 2-run homer by Steve Garvey. In the bottom of the 3rd, a drive into the deep right center field bleachers. Now, we'd like to alert stations that as soon as this ball game is over, we will swing to Dodger Stadium and join the Los Angeles Dodgers radio network with Vince Scully and Jerry Doggett for the completion of the game between the Pirates and the Dodgers, and it could be, as was pointed out by Jerry Holtzman and Herb Carneal, that this is the last day of playoff activity. If so, the World Series, if these leads hold up, will begin Saturday at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. And if the Dodgers are the host city, the airtime on the Parade of Sports Saturday for Game 1 would be 1945 GMT, and play ball at approximately 2000 via the NBC radio network. It'll be Jim Simpson calling the play-by-play and alternating with the announcers from the 2 clubs involved. We'll have more about that a bit later on.
Well, the Baltimore Orioles coming to bat. As they play There's No Tomorrow on the PA system. Heard that one before.
It certainly is. It certainly is not.
Coggins is fly to center, fly to right, fouled out to Hunter, who ran up and grabbed his foul in the 6th inning when Ray Foxy, the catcher, didn't see it. Orioles Stadium in Baltimore. This is Herb Carneal of the Minnesota Twins, along with Jerry Holtzman, sports columnist for the Chicago Sun-Times and the Sporting News, and author of the book, No Cheering in the Press Box. The first pitch to Coggins is low, a ball, 1-0. Blair on deck, Rich to follow. Baltimore has been blank now for the last 30 innings in this series. Fingers delivers. Strike on the low inside corner to Coggins. 1 ball and 1 strike. Coggins crowds the plate. He stands up in the batter's box. Swing, a ground ball hit behind second. Campaneris up with it, throws to first and got him. So Coggins looked like he got jammed a little. He didn't hit the ball real hard out by second base. Campaneris throws him out, and there's 1 gone. Here's Paul Blair.
Fingers has a tremendous amount of poise. He almost never seems to show his feelings out there. He's pitching as if it was just another game in June or July. I guess that comes from the confidence of knowing you're good.
Paul Blair has struck out, single through the hole to left and grounded to short. The first time he's been up against Fingers. And the pitch is blown outside a ball, 1-0. Catfish Hunter with the first 7 and left after Baylor led out the 8th inning with a single. Fingers now has retired 4 in a row. He pitched to Blair. Leaned him back. And it's ball 2. 2-0 to Blair. Baltimore has not scored in the series since the 5th inning of the first game. The pitch. Strike call. 2-1 the count. 1 gone and nobody on in the last half of the 9th inning. The world champion Oakland A's leading 2-0. High, tight fastball. Blair leaning away from it, and now it's 3-1. 3-1 the count to Blair. And Fingers delivers. Inside and high, he walked it. Blair's on. The tying run will be at the plate. Fingers walks Paul Blair. Now Alvin Dark, the skipper of the Oakland A's, is coming out to talk to Fingers. Glenn Blair and Knowles, 2 left-handers out there. Warming up. I'd be very much surprised, though, if Dark made any pitching change unless something physically went wrong with Fingers. He's finished up so many games for him. Another mark of a great relief pitcher, Jerry, is the number of games you finish up.
That's right. I'm sure Dark will stay with Fingers as long as he possibly can.
Bobby Gretsch has popped to third, fly to right, and popped to second. Most of the infield now is covered in shadow, except the skin part on the right side between first and second. Left field is in shadow, center and right still in sunlight. Gretsch takes outside the ball, 1-0. Baltimore is trying to generate a rally. They have to score at least 2 here to stay alive. Last of the 9th inning. Oakland leading 2-0. Swing, line drive, center field, a base hit. Blair stops at second. Gretsch lines the single to center. Baltimore has the tying run on. Remember, they were counted out of the Eastern Division race with about 34 games left. They were 8 games out of first, 128 of their last 34. Of course, the race went right down to the wire. They edged out the Yankees. Tommy Davis up. He's rated as one of the great clutch hitters. And boy, if there ever was a clutch situation, this is it. Davis today is single to center, grounded to short, fly to right. Boy, the crowd in an uproar now. Baltimore battling back here, trailing 2-0 in the last of the 9th inning. 2 on and 1 out. Infield up with a double play ball. A swing and a miss by Davis. 1 strike. Ronnie Fingers with a good hard slider, a sinker. He relies on most of the time. Luke Powell is on deck for Baltimore. There's a bounding ball hit down to Bando. He throws to Green. That's all they get. Rich sliding hard into Green. The ball wasn't hard hit. I don't think Green was going to throw to first and take any chance anyway. Davis is on. Blair goes to third. This is the first time since the first game of the series that Baltimore has had a runner as far as third base. But the tying run is on base, and big John Boog Powell is coming up. And he is the one guy who probably has as good a chance of any as hitting a long ball for Baltimore.
Actually, Bando juggled that ball just a little bit. Just long enough to prevent a double play.
Enos Cabell is going to run for Davis. Enos Cabell, C-A-B-E-L-L, number 24.
Alvin Dark has a difficult decision here. Because he could very well bring in Lindblad or no to pitch to Boog Powell. But he's staying with Fingers.
If anything should happen like a walk to Powell if you brought him to left-hander, then he shot Fingers out of the ball game. So he's going to rely on his Raleigh Fingers. Boog Powell. He's hit the ball hard twice today. Once into a double play started by Green. Then he lined out to Washington in right field in the fifth inning and was out tennis to Hunter covering in the seventh. Raleigh Fingers. There's a swing and a drive to center for a base hit. Blair has scored. The bell goes to third. It's now 2-1 Oakland. Tying run on third, winning run on first. Hit the ball hard today, drilled a shot up the middle, scoring Blair and sending the pinch runner Cabell over to third. It's 2-1 Oakland. Cabell the tying run on third, Powell the winning run on first, and Don Baylor the batter. Baylor is flying to center, struck out, single to left. What a ball game and what a finish here. Jim Palmer is going to run for Powell. Saying Boog, B-O-O-G, as Boog Powell comes off the field. Jim Palmer, who pitched a magnificent game yesterday, even though he lost 1-0, is running for him.
Despite the noise of the crowd and all the enthusiasm here, it's still Oakland's game right now. All we need is one more out and the game is over.
Gene Tennis is going to hold with Palmer at first base, and Green will be well over towards second. With Don Baylor at the plate. Oakland 2, Baltimore 1. Runners at first and third and 2 out in the last half of the ninth inning. Jerry Holtzman of the Chicago Sun-Times and yours truly, Herb Carneal. And what a finish we've got here at Baltimore. As Baltimore tries to go to that fifth game tomorrow. Here's the pitch. And a bluff bunt and a fake blow outside a ball. He was going to push one to the right side of the infield. It was wide open over there, because Tennis is holding with a runner and Green is way over towards second. I think Baylor had the idea that he could push the ball down there, beat it out, and get the tying run in.
That would be a spectacular play if he could do it.
Pitch is a strike on the low outside corner. 1 ball and 1 strike. Boy, the crowd has really come to life here in the last of the ninth. First time in the series here they've had really anything to cheer about. Baltimore's attack has been really stymied by the great Oakland pitching. There's a swing and a miss. He went for a low outside pitch, and it's 1-2. A ball and 2 strikes to Don Baylor, who hit almost 400 the last month of the season. Now it's down to 1 strike. If Baltimore can't get Cabell in here, it's all over as far as Baltimore's season. There's the stretch, the pitch on the way. A swing and a foul to stay alive. Pitch was away from Baylor. And the count remains 1 ball and 2 strikes. Oakland 2, Baltimore 1, the last half of the ninth inning here at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore. Oakland leading in the series 2-1. Cabell trying to rattle Raleigh Fingers. Cabell dancing up the line from third. The pitch foul back. He's still alive. Still 1 ball and 2 strikes to Don Baylor. Now Captain Sal Bando, the ace third baseman, coming over to talk to Raleigh Fingers. This all started with 1 out. Paul Blair got a walk-off. Fingers. Bobby Gritch single to center field, sending Blair to second, and Blair went to third. As Tommy Davis grounded into a force out, third to second. Powell single to score the run. The first run Baltimore scored in 30 innings. 30 and a fraction innings. Here's the stretch. And the pitch on the way, and it is inside a ball. 2-2 the count. Baltimore hoping for anything to get Cabell in from third base and tie the game up. Fastball or a wild pitch, error, base hit. All even on the count. 2 balls, 2 strikes. A swing and a miss. He struck it out. Outside fastball, and Baylor went down swinging to end the ball game. And Oakland has clinched its third consecutive American League championship as Raleigh Fingers struck out Baylor for the final out of the ball game. 1 run for the Orioles on 2 hits, no errors. They left 2 men on base. And Oakland has defeated Baltimore 3-1. Will fans stay with us for a brief summary coming right up. Final score, the Oakland A's 2, the Baltimore Orioles 1.
Well, Rolling Fingers made Alvin Dark look pretty good, even though he weakened a bit there in the 9th inning. He came on in the 8th inning to relieve a obviously tiring Jim Catfish Hunter, although Hunter had pitched superb ball up to that point. But after that base hit off the glove of Bert Campaneris in the left field, Alvin Dark had made up his mind as soon as he stepped on the dugout step and went out to the mound. He brought in Rolling Fingers, and even though Rolling Fingers was tattooed early in the 9th inning, he settled down and got the big strikeout, Don Baylor. And he wanted to get rid of him because there's a lot of big bats on the on-deck circle in the name of Brooks Robinson, and you didn't want to get that far down in the lineup because Brooks is one of the great clutch hitters of all time. And he got him on a beautiful slider to end the ball game and end the American League playoffs, with the Oakland Athletics again repeating as American League champions, and they'll be in their 3rd straight World Series. Now let's get back to Herb Carneal and Jerry Holtzman of the Chicago newspaper chain for today's wrap-up.
Well, the Oakland A's have defeated the Baltimore Orioles today. 2 games, a 2-1 to win the series, 3-1. And of the 2 games played here, Jerry, certainly we didn't have a lot of scoring, but I don't think I've seen any more 2 dramatic games than these were at Baltimore.
Well, it certainly was a dramatic finish, and it's really significant that the 2 runs that Oakland scored both sprouted from the base on balls. Cuellar walked 4 men in a row in the 5th inning to walk in a run, and of course he walked Bando with no outs in the 7th, and then Bando scored on Jackson's double. And it's very unusual, to see just to see this kind of ball game where both runs originally sprout from base on balls.
Right, Oakland in the 2 games here, Oakland had only 5 hits in the 2 games, including the one today, and of course they won both games. Baltimore, which went 30 consecutive innings without scoring, really brought this crowd alive here in the last half of the 9th inning when they threatened to tie it up or maybe even win the ball game after Coggins grounded to short. Paul Blair walked, Gritch single to center, Blair went to second, Blair went to third as Gritch was forced at second by Tommy Davis. And then Boog Powell drilled a single to center field, scoring Blair and sending pinch runner Enos Cabell over to third base. Don Baylor came up with a count 2 balls and 2 strikes, fouled off a couple of pitches, and then it looked like he swung at a fastball away from him, striking out to end the ball game.
Well, our thanks to Herb Carneal and Jerry Holtzman of the Mutual Network and the American League Robert Wool Company Network for the description of today's game. The final score again, the Oakland Athletics 2 and the Baltimore Orioles 1.